I think the last time I saw you was at Maureen's funeral.
It was. It was.
And I hadn't seen you before that then until one time when you was working for KSL. I went into the office up there.
We can't sit
Yeah,
on
that's
this,
true.
can we?
That's true. Yeah.
Wait, we can't sit on this, can we?
Yes, you can sit on that. Go ahead and
Why not?
sit down.
Just sit on this?
Yes.
Oh, I thought this was.
What do you mean, Shirley? You can sit on
We
it?
don't normally let them sit there, but you're special.
I was gonna say, I was
Now, the only trouble is, Francis, I fell the other day.
Well, I
And I didn't
too.
hurt anything. I just fell on my buttocks.
Uh-huh.
And you talk about hurt. So I have a rough time getting up and down. But outside of that, I'm okay.
I'm taking treatments now for my neck and back where I fell.
Did you have a...
Oh, fell in Mary Lynn's bathroom last June.
Oh,
Ermelita and Gary, my oldest daughter, were coming down to take me on a trip. And we were going out through New Mexico and Colorado and around. And Mary Lynn said, Ermelita, you don't need to come down here and pick him up, because Larry and I are going to the Black Hills. We're going to leave in the morning. He can come up and stay with me, and I'll bring him up to Provo. I fell in the bathtub, in the bathroom. And I lodged myself between the bathroom and the door, and they couldn't get in to get
get
me.
in to get you. Oh, brother.
And
Hey,
I tore all the ligaments out of this arm and my neck.
Hey, how is Owen doing?
Owen is doing pretty good. He's living up in Tooele with his daughter.
Well, I hadn't seen him for a long time. He used to go in the church in the same building as I did,
yeah.
and he had, what do you say, how do you say it, osteoporosis or
Oh,
whatever.
yes.
And he was bent over really bad.
He's quite bad.
Oh,
Yeah. and-
But his health is good,
Yeah,
but he lost his wife just about a year ago.
yeah, I heard
And
that.
then he went up to Tooele with her.
Oh,
Now,
well,
years ago, he had a pig valve put in his heart,
oh, he did?
and it's leaking. And I talked to him just last week, and he said the doctor told him to just be prepared.
Yeah.
is that Owen?
Owen.
Oh, yeah.
And she's,
She died about a year ago.
oh, she was Hawkins, wasn't
Yes.
she?
Yes, uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them since they were teaching school and they were.
Well, I was
both
we were trying to recall yesterday about how the old town looked when we lived here back in the 20s and the early 30s.
30s, 40s.
And the thing has changed so much, we're just absolutely confused sometimes.
Well, you know, back then, every street, there was a ditch.
Yeah,
Up and down the whole town, it didn't make any difference, a ditch for the irrigation water. And every ditch had cottonwoods, great
Right.
huge cottonwood trees.
I remember the cottonwoods,
Boy, that was really a blow when they started taking all of them out.
because I remember when they had their cotton, it was like a snowstorm. It was just everywhere. Yeah, yeah, that's true. It was. What you got, Don?
The pictures, if you want to share with them, talk about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a picture of Martin Abbott's family. Says, Luella's note about her mother's marriage and journey to California is a bit confusing. She mentions it right after her father's remarriage. While the genealogical record states her mother married Roy Marcus Feltz in Plymouth, Utah, after the divorce, it also notes it occurred before Myron's exodus to Mesquite Flat. It's logical to assume Luella knew of her mother's second marriage before Myron's leaving Ogden. Yet her mention of it suggests she heard of it after her father's marriage. Perhaps her father withheld the letter at first to prevent unnecessary hurt, then decided to show it to her to help her accept his remarriage to another woman. After 1903, Luella's mother would marry her third husband, Mark Blake, in Fortuna, California. Levisa,
Levisa, we used to call her.
Levisa, yeah. Levika, he's got it spelled both ways.
Yeah.
Was Martin Abbott's third wife. Their children would all be born in Bunkerville, Nevada. And the pictures of Levisa, James Smith, Mary Luella, William Elias, and John Austin.
Yeah.
Uncle Jim and.
You remember any of that history, you gals?
I do, I've read it. I mean, not, I've read history.
Well, that's the way with me, you know, I've read the history and I've been told, you know.
Uh-huh.
Those,
So
It
did
said
it.
Myron Abbott was born on December, well, it's got these people all here, but then
Yeah.
it said, Myron Abbott was born on December the 1st, 1837 in Perry, Illinois, to Stephen Joseph Abbott. Now, Stephen Joseph Abbott helped the prophet raise money to build the Nauvoo Temple.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he was also going on a mission.
Right, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And Abigail Smith. He had previously married Luella's mother, Laura Josephine Allen, on April the 24th, 1861 in Ogden. They had 8 children. Laura had been born on April the 4th in Nauvoo, Illinois, to Orville Morgan Allen and Jane Wilson. Myron had married his second wife, Pauline Emily Nayland,
Mela.
on October the 10th in Salt Lake. They had 1 child. There were several Leavitt marriages to the children of Myron Abbott and Laura Josephine Allen. The couple's children had been born in Ogden, Utah, unless otherwise. And there was Myron Alma Minnie, Stephen Orville, Mary Luella,
Mary Llewellyn, you see, was my grandmother.
oh really?
Mhm.
Ah, James Smith, William Elias,
Yeah.
Yeah.
steamboats.
The old salt mine, you see, was buried under Lake Mead.
And then it says, William Abbott recounts, William E. Abbott was sent by his father to go along and get his salt. However, before William was to get the salt, he was to stop in St. Thomas and get his brother Stephen, who was there working to help him. The salt was near the top of a high hill capped with about 50 feet of hard clay or cap rock. Hundreds of tons of salt had been shot out from under this cap rock, leaving it to hang over, and great masses of it would fall at intervals and roll down the steep hillside into the canyon below. They thought they were in need of one more shot, so it was decided that Alonzo Leavitt and Stephen Abbott would put it in, while the others were loading the wagons. In just a few moments, a great mass of this rock came down right where the men was drilling. Leavitt was just barely escaped, but Abbott was crushed, killed, and buried. Some large boulders rolled down into the canyon where the others were loading salt. A large boulder jumped over the wagon of Dudley Leavitt. Another struck his lead horse and killed it instantly. After the dust had cleared, this small group went up on the hill and found the tip of Abbott's boot above the jumbled rubble. They rolled the boulders from his body, carried him down to the wagon, made a bed for him, hooked up the teams, and went to St. Thomas. There they washed his body and rolled it in his sheet and started for home. And by the spring of 1881, the order was completely ended. From then on, each family worked by, they had the United Order, I guess is what he said. Work performed by itself. Still the same charitable attitude prevailed. Bunkerville had a population of 125 with a store, restaurant, a livery stable, blacksmith shop, church building, school, and semi-weekly mail. In spite of any previous differences, 15 families had remained cohesive and determined to continue, although the others had left to settle in Mesquite. Merle Whitwer remembers how the mail would reach town. He recalls the first mail was brought by a fellow by the name of Hector Bunker. He had to go to St. Thomas, Nevada to get it. He went on a horse. One time he was coming back by our place. Dad said that his horse was so give out that his head was almost down to the ground, and all the mail they got was in a little sack. In St. George back on April the 6th, 1877, just 3 years prior to his death, President Brigham Young had concluded his presidency much as it had begun, with the dedication of a temple. All the church's general authorities had attended, and Elder Daniel H. Wells had given the dedicatory prayer. And it's got some more pictures and names here. This is Leavitt pioneers. John Patrick and Treva Lowena Morrison.
I don't know. This is something that I've never heard of.
Yeah, these are good pictures. There's Patrick Evans,
Yeah.
Brett Lemon, Shawnee Beth, and then down here's another group with the good pictures. And then this is a picture of the group that was up on the Narrows with my dad.
Yeah.
And
No, your dad was killed up in the Narrows.
right, and that's him right there.
Uh-huh.
And underneath it, it says the canal had been surveyed and construction had started from the mouth of the tunnel to a point south and above where the homes of Desert Springs are located. Yeah, you used to be able to see that, but it's hard to see anymore.
Yeah. Well, just as you go in the canyon, you come in and start to make the turn.
Yeah,
Look to the left, just where you go through, there's just some rock.
yeah, right,
Look to the left, that's where your dad was killed.
yeah, right, that's why we stopped
Right,
right
right
there.
there, right there.
Yeah.
And,
I'd like to have a copy of this.
and then he says, Sunday evening, August the 4th, and early morning of Monday, August the 5th, a torrential rainstorm fell over the area between the Virgin Valley and Zion's Canyon. This rain was extremely severe in the upper Zion's Canyon mountains, and a big flood was soon roaring down the river towards the dam in the gorge. Monday morning at about 11 o'clock, another huge cloudburst hit in the Black Rock area, and another large flood came running out of the mountains to the south of the river and emptied into the river from the canyons emptying the mountains. The Zion's Canyon flood had already hit by this time, and the water level behind the dam at the mouth of the gorge rose up 76 feet. That's a lot of water in that canyon.
My, oh my.
Then the next flood from
floods
the,
down our wash where we lived.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
They could get pretty big when we were young.
I've seen water up past J.L.'s store and all the
Yes.
way down to Tobler's.
Oh, yeah.
Right down
Yeah.
the center of the street.
right down the middle, yeah. Then the next flood from the Black Rock Mountains hit, and the water backed up behind the dam quickly and flowed over the dam. The dam, being at the 86-foot height, would have created a reservoir of some size. There is no record showing how far back into the gorge the reservoir would have been. It could have gone back a mile or more. The river generally fell at the rate of 14 feet per mile, at least through Virgin Valley and Valley, but the rate of fall through the gorge is somewhat greater. And then there's this little deal here. The Relief Society of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the largest women's organization in the world. Organized in 1842, the Relief Society took up the cause of compassionate service and the strengthening of women and families. To this end, the Relief Society branch of Mesquite, Nevada, decided to establish a house, a Relief Society house, that
I
would
remember
serve
that
as their
one.
headquarters.
I remember
You
that.
got a little
Uncle
picture?
Wes bought it from
Yeah.
the church.
Yeah.
The Relief Society members of Mesquite raised funds and pledged personal money in order to build their first meeting house. The finished product was a small one-room facility built on a donated lot from James E. Hughes.
Oh,
Originally dedicated on February 23rd, 1929, the house was outgrown within a few years, and it was soon apparent that a larger facility would be necessary. Without delay, the women ardently set about the work of expanding their building. They presented plays, through dances, stocked bake sales, and sold quilts in order to raise the necessary funds, while the men in town volunteered the labor. Any material available was used to expand their house, including the paint salvaged from a school reconstruction project in Logandale. Their earnestness and ingenuity in this ambitious endeavor inspired even those outside of their community and religious affiliations. Upon completion of the project, the building supplier, Ed Von Tobel, I remember that man.
He supplied a lot of the material for this.
Oh yeah, he was the one that my dad was,
Yeah.
a non-Mormon, donated back $400 of the $800 bill to these remarkable women. Gratefully, in response to the sisters, presented Von Tobel with a hand-stitched quilt for his tremendous generosity.
I never knew that.
As a new addition to the building, a baptismal font was installed. Even before the experience was completed, On September the 5th, 1943, the first baptismal services were held. That's amazing. That's amazing.
There's a lot of history there that I've never heard of.
Oh, that is
We gotta
really.
find out where Don's getting all of this, you know, because it sounds wonderful.
See the pictures.
Yeah, that's great.
I never did know that they had
Oh,
the
this
dam
is
built that
Grandma
high.
and Grandma.
I thought after your father was killed, they discontinued it.
Well, and
This
it was
is
at
Lucas.
that
Myron
at that
Alma.
maximum height when he was killed.
Oh,
They didn't do any, right after he was killed, the floods came, right after that.
right.
What year did they build that
And it
dam?
took all of the dam out and all of his equipment, that's why he finally quit.
What
But you
year
know,
was that?
Would be in 1928. So I've been trying to make contact with the Mojave
County.
and see if I can find out any background about Mr. Johnson. Because remember, that was gonna be called the Johnson's Bench,
Yes,
because he was gonna irrigate all of that. And in some way in the back of my mind, as I keep thinking, is that the state of Arizona had something to do with that. I mean, they, when I say something to do with it, like they may have had some investment in it,
Yeah, but
or
he must have been,
participated, because
A
everything that
friend or
happened,
something.
Mom's
Right.
piddling little
probably.
insurance money that she got,
Probably
I
as
think it was
old as-
$50 a
Well,
month.
yeah, it's
Probably.
nearly as.
Yeah, somewhere around
Didn't
there,
marry
came
that
from the
fine,
state of
and I
Arizona.
wondered why he said
Yeah, it
what
didn't
the-
come
Oh,
from anywhere
well,
else.
let's see.
So I just thought that it might be interesting to
It
see
doesn't
if
show
there,
her, does it?
what history we can find out about Mr.
Abigail
Johnson.
Levine, it doesn't show her either.
Now, the interesting thing yesterday is I was looking for Lynch's Watergate,
Yeah.
because that's where Denzel was killed.
That's right. I was there
And,
when he was killed.
No, I guess it's
I
just.
was with the
me.
group.
Yeah, were you with us when we were swimming up there on the 24th? And
He run
anyway,
and dove off of that bank, and
yeah,
when he came up, his neck was hit.
yeah, that's right. But anyway, I went into the city hall over here,
William?
and, you know, they're
And
They're
John
much younger, they don't
Austin.
understand what we're even talking about.
The thing of it,
Oh, it doesn't.
when we started to reline the canal,
Yeah,
and that was after
Yeah,
I
and
came
then it
home out of the
says-
army, see, quite a while.
Abigail Malvina.
We had all
was
of
born
these
after this was
engineers
taken,
with
so she must be
Yeah.
in 1879.
all the different
And she
county
married
And she married John
and government
Parsons.
agencies.
So we
But
don't,
it don't know who.
They had all of
But
these
it looks
plans
like
made
him.
out. They had what they called a sand trap, and you go back up the
That looks
ditch
like
about 50 or
Maranello.
60 feet.
His son.
And Max
See,
Hafen,
these are
John
all by the
Jensen, and
first
Dee,
wife.
and the different ones that have been on the
And I
ditch all the
guess
time.
Aunt Viney
Said
is the
it won't
oldest,
work.
and she's pregnant here. it
The
looks
sand will
like.
come down and
And
backfill
Aunt
up the
Viney
ditch.
was born later
It
and
will not
married
work.
Parsley,
They put it
but
in.
These are the,
2 months
sons
after they
of-
put it in, they tore it out
This-
because
these are the.
it wouldn't work.
First wife at
It'd make a
Josephine's, but she raised
channel
Yeah,
right,
make it
right,
see.
right in
Yeah.
the middle of the ditch,
yeah.
then leave everything
Myron
else,
Alma, I'm
you
sure
know.
it is.
And they said,
Front, Myron, Minnie.
we have to drain the ditch.
on the front of that
Do it
tent,
3
that's
times
it.
a week.
Myron Miney.
Now,
Yeah.
we have to go up and do it
So
every
that
day because the
Myron.
channel
There,
and
there,
it
there.
builds up and starts to run
But
over
I
the
wanted
banks.
to
Yeah,
see these that.
I
he said
remember
was,
when Denzel was killed, that the guy had not pulled the hand
You know,
the
he
day before.
hadn't pulled it out like he always did.
So it was full of sand.
Right.
Instead of it being the big
years.
pond that he
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
it was nothing.
The pond 10 feet deep,
I gotta get
it
my
was 4 feet
glasses.
deep.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember that horrible sound.
Oh,
Yeah. And he was so enthused that day because he was gonna show Mother
yeah.
that new dive that he had just perfected.
Right.
And he
He
ran
couldn't
off
wait
of
to
that
charge.
bank.
He run off that bank
What was
like-
it, 12, 14-foot bank
Yeah,
high.
yeah.
Dove off in there head first.
And what had happened is that the silt had filled.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
yes.
what we're talking about,
And
yeah.
filled the pond.
Yeah,
Well, you see, that we always had to drain that canal to waste the sand out 3
Yeah,
times a week.
yeah.
Well, whoever was running the canal that
Yeah.
time hadn't drained
Hadn't
it
done it.
like they normally do, and that's what happened.
yeah. But where would Lynchgate approximately be? It was up beyond where you folks live, but how far?
Yes. It was down from the canal. Let's see. It would probably be a mile downstream from the dam.
See, the thing, why I was asking you that is because
Well,
it
it-
didn't seem that far away in my mind as a kid, but now it does for some reason.
Yeah.
And when I stopped over to the city hall like yesterday, they finally had me just go upstairs and look at the painting
Uh-huh.
of the canal system.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it don't go far enough. And the girl downstairs, when I come down and talked to her, said, well, was it in Arizona? And I said, I don't know.
Yes.
And she says, if it's in Arizona, it won't be on there.
Well, you see
We won't
it.
show it. We
See,
won't
see
show it.
the high school
Uh-huh,
is just barely in Nevada.
Uh-huh.
Arizona is everything to the east.
so it would have been in Arizona?
Yeah, it was a mile and a half upstream from it.
Okay, so they didn't, it wasn't on their,
Yeah.
their rendering, yeah.
Well, I know we went up the river.
Oh, yeah, you had to drive the wagon or horse or whatever
Yeah,
up that
way-
road
way-
and then the
way
river.
up, right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to get there that
Yeah.
day.
Now, right on top of the hill, where I live up there now, L.V. Colton and Fent Fringer raided off a little strip, and they had an airplane. And they used that for a landing strip.
Uh-huh,
The Lynch Gate would have been somewhere not more than a quarter of a mile just down under that hill.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
There
Oh, man.
used to be a little spring of water coming out there, seep water, but it was clear, and we called it mountain water. We used to go up there and fill our barrels.
Oh, yeah,
And then when them big floods come, it washed all of that away.
for heaven's sake.
My dad said when they came here, there were places in the river that you could run and jump across, and when they had them big floods like you
Yeah.
just read, it widened the river that far.
Well, I can remember.
That much land was taken away.
You know, I can remember, Francis, when I was in school, when Aunt Emma was teaching
Yeah.
me, that we had a big flood down the river, and we went down to the bridge, and the water was going over the bridge.
Right over here, back of Ace Hardware,
Yeah,
and running right over the top.
yeah.
Oh, of course, the bridge. Do you remember when they built the bridge that's there now? They had the old tile bridge upriver, just
Just a little
short
ways,
distance.
yeah.
We were all worried that it was going to tip that tile bridge over and wash the new bridge that they're putting in.
Yeah,
And the flood was so large that it washed both approaches on the other side and this side out. They laid plank across it for us kids to get across to go
Get
to
across
school.
the crew.
Mi-
Yeah.
Millie will remember
remember
that.
that, yeah. You'd have to.
Well, Denzel, after Daddy died, we still had the car,
Uh-huh.
and so when we'd be late and miss the bus to Bunkerville, she would let us, Denzel drive the car to Bunkerville, so we wouldn't miss school. School was
Yeah,
real important.
Uh-huh.
And if by any chance I'd been the one that made us late, Denzel would sit me on his lap and let me drive across that,
Oh.
that bridge, you know, and they were, it was a plank bridge some way.
Well,
And you had to hold your, the wheel and keep, so you didn't go,
Mhm.
slip off those planks.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was my big deal, that's how I learned to drive, was
Down those planks.
Yeah, they had about 4 plank laid out there, and that was just one way across.
And that.
We
and
had
you-
to wait, on each side. And
If you got off of there, it was about like this.
Yeah.
To get your wheel back on.
it was 2x12s or something
I bet.
laid there to drive
Yeah,
on.
right, exactly, I remember
Yeah.
that.
And it seemed like it was forever. I mean, that seemed like a big one.
We were talking yesterday about, I remember going up to St. George with Dad in a wagon.
I never made it up in a wagon.
And we left in the early morning. I remember laying in the back of the wagon and the star, it must have been Venus or whatever,
Yeah.
so used to call it the morning star. and I used to watch that so much. But we were talking about Sand Hollow. And I remember when Dad'd get to the edge of Sand Hollow, he would get out and put a couple of cottonwood logs or limbs or whatever you want to call them in the back wheels of the wagon. Pull the handbrake on it all the way.
Go down
And
that
then
hill.
over we'd go down that sand. And it was just like a sliding clear to the bottom there. It was unbelievable.
At that time, that turn was so sharp as you come out of Sand Hollow going up.
Uh-huh.
They had what they called Pickwick and Red Wing buses that looked like these small buses that they use, you know, for handicapped people and things now. But that was the bus lines that went through
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
That turn was so sharp that those buses would have to back up, and then people in the back could look right straight down.
Oh, you remember, we went up to Big Bend and.
Well, your father worked up there.
Oh,
for a
yeah,
while.
they were in it, but we could still, yesterday we saw that one big sharp turn where they had rocked up. And that's where the buses would get
Yeah.
that wheel off, or then they'd get out and yell, and Dad'd be down in the cutting hay or whatever, and hitch the horses and go up and
Pull 'em
and
out.
pull them around that turn and get them going. Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? And I remember, he used to carry a great big, I don't know whether it was a 50-pound or what, bucket of grease, axle grease he called it. And so every once in a while he'd have to stop and that's why I always thought he was the strongest man in the world, because that's all I ever seen. But he would take these two cottonwood poles and fix it under the wagon and pry down on it so that the wheel was
Raise
on.
it up.
And then undo that great big
Nut.
nut and pull the wheel off and then take hands full of that
Yeah.
grease, just reach in and slap it all over that spindle and
Yeah.
shove that big
Yeah,
old hub
I
back on
remember
it.
that grease, how thick it was.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, yeah, and it was like butter.
Yeah.
I remember we
I've
took a
forgotten that.
Yeah.
we took a contract of laying placing the power poles
Yeah.
across the mesa when the power came in. And working out there in that alkali dust, I've seen my dad and older brothers and them go and take their finger and wrap around the axle like that and get that grease.
The grease, put on their
Put
lips.
it on their lips.
Yeah. Hey, what year was it that electricity came here?
It was 39, I
Was it
believe.
39?
Uh-huh.
When you finally got
So
electricity?
we finally got it.
I'll be darned. Yeah, because we were talking
Yeah,
yesterday,
we
and
were
I remembered Bob,
Was it 39 when electricity came?
Uh-huh.
Bob wired Mama's house.
yeah, he did.
And Gwen was a baby.
Just a
She
tiny
was born in
baby.
37, so that was 30. But I don't know whether it was here, but it was on its way. And we came and Bob was with the highway department. That
Yeah,
was
right.
a little short job. And we stayed with Mama and that was his way of paying her
He
rent.
wired-
Rent was to
He wired the
wire
house,
her-
yeah.
our
I
house.
remember that,
But I
Millie.
don't think the power was
I
quite
didn't-
here, but it was
We-
gonna be.
we
So
got-
That's
We
what I was
got
trying to
it
think.
From
Yes,
Howard Pulsfer.
What?
Howard Pulsfer and them had a generator.
Yes,
And we hooked up to
Elmer
that.
Hughes and Howard Postford.
That-
Uncle Dave and them and you guys
And we
was
got
hooked
it from
into it.
them.
Now that
Oh,
was,
that's what he did then.
Yes,
That's what
yeah,
under there,
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you see
before
that-
the park came.
they
in.
had an old Dodge motor.
motor.
And Brother Postford borrowed money from his mother-in-law, Sister Granger,
Right,
and bought that generator.
that's right,
And
exactly.
they'd turn it on so long you could
Yeah,
do
and
your
that was-
laundry and all that.
Remember
And
And the
then
lights would dim and dim.
Yeah.
I do, and I remember Grandma Granger.
Cause wasn't Brother Harper the one that was always talking about putting street lights?
Oh, yes. He started to name them. And in fact, up in front of the old elementary school,
Yeah,
his number is still up there on the wall.
Oh,
Oh,
is
really?
it?
First North.
And
Oh,
is
didn't he-
it, can you go in the old elementary school? Is it gone?
Well, no, it's there, and
Is it?
the city owns it, and I just read where they're going to do a lot of reconstruction and things.
Remodeling.
Remodel that.
Yeah.
But you know, I got a real
Now,
memory.
listen, it wasn't the elementary school, it was the middle school. The old elementary school was
It's
the
gone.
block building.
It was
Yes.
the one
Yeah.
with
The one you and I went.
Yes.
Yeah,
Where we,
yeah.
And Emma
But you know what
when
I
Laurel
remember?
hit Eleanor Leavitt with a razor. Do you remember that?
I don't.
We
Maybe
went-
I don't want to read.
I can't remember just offhand whether our teacher was Nelson or Nielsen, but he had one posterior leg. And he was putting on a cantata or something for a Christmas party.
Uh-huh.
And we kids back in the 6th grade back there was supposed to be on our honor. And we got a China bud fight going. Across the street was all those China buds.
Yeah, I remember
I
those.
remember those.
And so we was throwing China buds back and forth, and finally you picked up a razor and throwed it and it hit Eleanor Leavitt just above the eye.
Oh, shit.
She started to scream and blood, and Emma and Sister Thornley and Brother. He come in and lined us guys all up against the wall. He was giving us the heck. He said, "You guys are lower than gully pups." That Adams said, "Mr. Nelson, we're dumb. What's a gully pup?" He left and we never saw him. He never came back.
I remember we used to, Archie and Dill and all of us, remember?
Yeah.
We used to, if we decide the day before that we didn't want to have school that day, Archie would get boxes of 22 bullets
Yeah.
from the store. And then when the teacher would say, "Would you throw some wood on the fire?" Archie'd volunteer.
Yeah.
And then he'd go back and throw wood in and then dump all those boxes of shells. By the time he got back to his seat, they were going off and there was soot and smoke. Boy, did they think the house was coming.
We didn't know about that. Mama didn't know about that.
Do you remember the old building over at the high school,
Yeah.
Bunkerville? The
Oh, you
one
bet, you
when
bet.
Pete Abbott put the shotgun shell in the stove? Boy, it blowed the ash. Well, had that cedar wood in
I
there.
had forgotten.
It just blowed ashes
I
and
had
stuff.
forgotten that.
Yeah. I remember in the grade school when we was with Aunt Emma, that one of the things we used to do, and I don't know why we did it, we had the old desktop
Yeah,
with the inkwell.
Yeah, uh-huh.
We used to put raisins, dried
Oh, yeah,
raisins in the
yeah.
inkwell.
And your braid.
Yeah.
The boys, if you
Put
said
the
boys
braids,
sit behind
stick
you
'em
when
in.
they put
Yeah,
your
exactly.
braid in the ink.
Well, we had to have something to do, didn't we? At least we weren't in real trouble.
When they finally got the old carbide lights up in the school, they
Yeah.
Oh, I remember
come out of the
that.
county with them tanks of carbide. They'd always lose a little trying to refill them, and we'd gather it up, and then we'd go find a can someplace and dig a hole, put some of the carbide lights or grains in there, and then pour a little water. Boom!
Yeah, I remember that. That was in fact, that's what I was gonna ask you. I was trying to remember
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot that. I remember the smell of that carbide.
that was actually our big 24th sort of a thing up forth, because we didn't have firecrackers.
No.
It was hard to
No,
get.
but
So
they
carbide
always
became
had the cannon. Was it carbide they used? But
Oh, yeah,
The
carbide.
carbide to make the gas to run the lights on.
yeah, same thing.
But on the
Uncle,
4th of July,
uh,
we were always woke up
Oh,
with
we
that.
used little cans on the 4th of July, and like he said, with carbide grins, and you'd put a little hole in the top of the can, and that's where you put the water in. And then you'd light it immediately. And the danger was that if you didn't have your head out of the way or whatever, you were a goner.
Harley
Yeah,
got his finger blown off,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that ended it.
exactly.
There was none done after that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got his finger blown off way back here somewhere.
But you know what I remember about the 4th of July? We always had to have new dresses. Now you wear any old thing.
Yeah.
But we always had to be dressed up and meet up there at the school. And I remember, of course, I was a lot younger than You kids.
Here she goes.
Oh,
Throwing age around.
Oh, I'm a lot younger.
not sure that's old, guys.
Yeah.
But I remember that Arthur Hughes ice cream freezer.
Yeah, oh, that
Oh,
big
to me
4
as
gallon.
a child, it
Yeah.
was that big. And that was, that was the whole, to me,
Oh, yeah.
of the 4th of July was get a cone of Arthur Hughes.
Yeah, we had
Bring that
2 of them. We
great
had one 2 gallon, and then that big one was a 4 gallon.
See, and to
And
me,
we'd
it
freeze
was
the ice
that
cream and
big
take it
and
down
that
in front of the
tall.
Hughes and Frainer store.
Yeah.
And have it there.
Yeah,
Give
it
a
was
big old
just-
thing of ice cream for a nickel.
Yeah, that was the whole
Now,
thing.
Francis, what street is the Elwood Theater on?
The old Elwood Theater's on Willow. That's where, you know where the Golden State Nugget, or Golden something Nugget, this casino up the street here.
Uh-huh,
It goes north, right up past the old school.
uh-huh.
My son-in-law owns that Mesquite Dental building and everything up
Oh,
there.
uh-huh.
And it's on North Willow.
North Willow. They tore it down, didn't they?
Oh, the old theater, yes.
Yeah. I was trying to find it yesterday because, see, that was the one I named. I used to run the projectors and Shirley
Yeah.
was the usher.
The little flashlight with the,
Yeah.
Well, Mike, when he went in, Mike Burns, when he went in the service, he got as far as Hawaii.
Yeah.
And he was running that theater, and they found out that he had that knowledge. So he spent the war in Hawaii running the theater.
In
over
the
there.
theater, yeah.
Is
And
that
Archie
right?
Hughes, he ended up down in, I think it was Georgia someplace, welding on the ships.
Yeah, he did.
Oh.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's where he was.
That's why
served
they
in
did
the
their
war.
service.
Yeah, that's what he did in the service, yeah. Yeah.
So what they gained here, they
Yes,
used when they were in the
yes.
service.
Well, my brother Owen, you see, he had a college degree, and when he was drafted, of course, he was already starting to teach by then.
Yeah.
And when he was drafted, he was in Fort Douglas, Utah, and they sent him down to, San Bernardino, California, and they was making a new induction station down there, where they could be inducted from that area.
Yeah.
He went from a private to a master sergeant in one jump.
Oh, really?
And he carried that until he got overseas, and they broke him back down to a corporal.
Because of his education.
Yeah.
I probably had the longest time in the service of anybody.
Well, with your leg getting put
Well,
there.
that's a funny one because, you know, they were drafting then. And so all of us went by bus from Las Vegas up to Fort Douglas
Right,
in Utah. And I remember we got in there about, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We'd traveled all night. It was terrible. And there was hundreds of guys. That was where they were doing all the screening and everything for everybody. And so I went through my exam and they put a tag around your neck on which
Yeah.
service you were going to. And I had a Navy tag. And I was going back to the barracks and it was I don't remember what order the guy, whether he's a general or
Yeah,
whatever he
whatever.
was. But he stopped me. He stopped me and grabbed the tag and he said, "What?" And I said, "Well," and he said, "Come here." And we went back. And boy, did he ream that guy out that examined me. He said, "Didn't you ever look at his foot?"
Yeah.
And what they were doing, they were so tired and got so involved that they were just doing those, drop your pants, bend over,
Yeah.
go on next,
Hundreds of.
and they never looked at my foot.
No.
So that's as long as I was in the Navy, just long enough to go from here to there and back, and I was
Yeah.
out.
Well, my first encounter up to Fort Douglas, there's 6 busloads that came Kingman and Las Vegas, down to Barstow, California, all this area.
Yeah,
There were 6 busloads of us up there, and the one little black kid in the bus that I was on, of course, they put us in and told us to go to bed, and like you said, middle of the night.
yeah.
Well, a bunch of those guys with that black kid got to shooting craps in the latrine. They come and every one of us got up in our shorts and was out there cleaning the bathroom with brushes and soap all the rest of the night. That was
Kids are putting
my
it.
first night.
Oh, yeah, my heavens. Well, I was trying to remember the other day now, yeah, on the layout of Mesquite, I know we've always had the curve and the road down. But was the road always just a straight road down, or did we,
From
did it
the-
wind a little?
No, from this road up here, down to the, where.
It turns to go to
The
Bunkerville?
turns to go to Bunkerville, it was straight. And of course, going up and down out of this wash,
Yeah,
you remember how many teams with loads of hay and stuff got stuck and that somebody had to come
You
and
betcha.
pull them out of
pull
there.
them out of there.
Yeah.
Well, and the road went right down in front of our house.
It did,
Yeah.
just to the left of
Long
there.
before the bridge, right.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's the way I remember Uncle Dave and them finally was over on this side of the bridge,
Uh-huh.
the wash. And Lister Leavitt and they were on the
On
other
the-
side, just across from each other. And we were down, there was Uncle Ray and then us and then Hardy.
Yeah,
And Hugh
Over on the
Levitt
other
was
side.
right behind you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Uh-huh.
I'll be
I
there.
remember that big old palm tree that was sitting out there.
Oh, yes.
All those years, no water, and it just kept growing.
Kept growing, yeah.
That- Years.
That's the
and
one
years.
that shaded my brother.
Yeah.
When he had his neck broke. Yeah,
Yeah.
he laid out under that old palm tree
Big
for
old
4
palm
days.
tree.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
now,
two old,
how,
one was, we had a plum tree and and the two palm trees, you remember?
Uh-huh.
And we had a fig tree out there.
Had a fig tree, yeah.
And the fig tree was my turning bar. The limb just went straight. And boy, I learned to do all those turning bar tricks on that old fig tree. You remember the fig
on
tree?
the fig tree.
And I remember,
remember the
at
fig
least
tree.
in my memory, it seems to be that Dad was doing some work down at the Warm Springs, which is down by Moapa
Uh-huh.
somewhere down.
Yeah.
And he brought all of these, what do I wanna call them, cactus.
Oh,
A
uh-huh.
great big leaf cactus and planted in the yard.
Yeah.
I've never liked them. It's been horrible. But I
Yeah.
remember that and the tamarisk and stuff was,
Well, and our lawn was the shape of Nevada.
yeah,
He did that.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
You remember where the ditch came and
Yeah.
down by our house
yeah,
and then
exactly.
kitty corner, it was the shape of Nevada. And he brought guinea hens and rabbits. And we I don't know whatever happened to those guinea hens, but I sure remember us having them.
Guinea pigs?
Yeah, guinea hens,
Oh,
chickens.
guinea hens.
Hens.
Now, there's another question I want to ask you, to see if our memories match, and I'd like my sisters to jump in. And that's about toys and stuff, what we did. Now, I remember the little tractors that we used to build with,
Yeah, well,
made out of the
wood.
with the thread,
Uh-huh.
the spool thread with a rubber band and the nail, and you
Yeah.
wind it up and you cut these little niches and you put it down and let it run all over. I remember that one. I remember the helicopter, which we call it that now, it wasn't then. You used to have a stick with a phonograph needle in the top of it, and you'd take this little piece of tin and make it like a propeller, and twist it and poke these two, and then you wind the string around the spool and shoot it into the air. Remember that?
Right.
I remember that we used to use a lot of tar as chewing gum.
Oh, yeah,
From the
all the
roots,
time.
Yeah, big
Because we
time.
didn't have anything else. And I remember Mom making little harnesses for horny toads, and we had little 1 penny, no, you know, those 1 cent match boxes,
Uh-huh.
and they had little chariots behind them, and we would race them.
Yeah.
And I remember the doodle bugs.
Oh,
Remember
you
when you would
bet.
get the little grease ant and drop down
Yeah.
in and get the doodle bug to come.
That's what I've been trying to remember. I couldn't remember the word doodlebug.
Well, that's what they call it. I
But I
don't know.
can remember the little house that they,
You know, they'd make that little mold.
Yeah.
and you touch it and they
You put that hand in there, and
They
they'd come
come
up
right
right
out,
here. And then we had the guns, the rubber
rubber
guns that you
guns.
made out of the bicycle tire tubes and the car tubes.
Oh,
They got pretty proficient. I remember we used
don't you remember those
clothesline.
sticks?
We're still using them up on at our reunion up on Cedar Mountain.
Oh, you really?
My son-in-law, he sent out and got the guns, and they're made by companies now.
Oh,
Of course,
really?
we had those rifles, you know,
Yeah.
we'd have 6 or 7 rubbers on there.
Yeah.
You just bang, bang, bang.
That's right.
6 shooters.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and the stilts, you remember the
Oh,
stilts?
you bet.
With the cans.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And the,
Did a lot of that, yeah.
Well, don't you remember we had the stick, the board, and we had the rim, the metal rim, and
Hook,
Oh, yeah.
hook and stick.
something
It
bound
was just,
on it.
actually, it was
We'd twirl
just
it.
2 pieces of wood.
Was
Yeah.
that what it was?
And then you
we'd
put the
twirl that
wheel
all
down and
over
roll
the
it, yeah,
country,
yeah,
up the
roll the wheel,
hills.
yeah. And I was trying to remember all the things that.
and the whistles.
Yeah,
You
the,
had to have a certain kind of, was it a willow?
Either a willow or black,
Yeah.
or cottonwood.
Yeah,
Black,
cottonwood.
black willow and cottonwood.
Two
That
things
we
would
made
make
all
a
the
whistle.
whistles out of.
and then the other thing you did for entertainment was remember I think it was a cottonwood leaf.
Oh,
When
yeah.
you bend
boy.
over.
Oh, yes, right.
Try to learn to play tunes on them, yeah.
Yeah.
And the hair, and the comb, I mean the comb and the
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Music.
the paper or whatever you put over, you blow, yeah.
The wax paper and
Yeah,
all.
like, yeah.
We had a game that we called a guinea, and we would take a piece of wood and make 4 sides on it, and then sharpen both ends, and then put numbers on each one of those, and we'd lay it there and then hit it with a stick like that.
I
and fly.
remember that.
And
I had
mumbly
forgotten
peg.
that entirely, but
Yeah.
now I
And
know.
mumbly peg. With
Well,
our
mumbly
little-
peg, yeah, with the knife.
Yeah, the knife,
Yeah.
wham.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that one is, I had forgotten that completely, but I
I
remember now.
remember that.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
used to play really hard games.
Oh, yeah.
That was about as popular as marbles was.
The marbles was really our number one
Well,
game.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we'd just take a plain old can when we got one and play kick the can,
Yeah,
remember?
yeah.
2 sides, and we'd draw a hole, a circle, at least my age, in the old lane, and we'd put that can there on both sides, and
Yeah,
we'd kick each
yeah.
other nearly to death.
Yeah.
We'd heard about soccer, but that was our
That was it.
way of playing it.
Yeah. See who'd get it over the.
Isn't that amazing? I trying to think the other day, what in the world did we do
Oh,
as
we were
kids and
busy.
stuff? But
We
we
were
had all kinds of stuff.
happy kids.
Well, we used to use cucumbers and cut them in half and take out the core and sail them down the ditch.
Yeah,
Do you
and
remember
Oh,
boats.
that?
yeah, it's boats.
Yeah, and
Uh-huh.
pea pods,
Yeah.
I remember.
We'd take those pomegranate limbs that was real flexible, and you could get along the ditch and get a big old wad of black mud like that and stick on it, and then wham, and we had wars that way.
Yeah.
I hit Wes right in my brother Wes right in the eye
Right,
one
yeah.
time. Mother liked to beat me.
Oh, man. And I was trying to think the other day too also, but over there by Lister Levitt, up after you come across, there was a kind of a blank area, empty area.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like we, as a community or whatever group, we made dobies over there.
We
Doby
did.
brick
That's how we
for houses and
Now,
stuff.
Made
see, I
all our
don't
adobe.
remember
Yeah.
that.
all of ours was
I
made
don't
up on our
remember
own
seeing
property
that.
up
Yeah.
there, but Charlie Hardy had a lot on the east side of us,
Yeah,
and we used his yard there to lay them out, and dry them.
yeah.
We'd have to go lay them out there, and then go back after they had a little time and turn them up on their edge. But
Then the other thing that I talk about and people think I'm absolutely nuts, but it was making molasses.
oh, I'm telling you,
Oh, I've watched that.
Oh,
The
with me.
horses.
you kids probably
Oh,
saw us. We used to make that all the time.
Yeah, have the horse.
I've had one horse to go around to run the mill. There was one
Yeah, the big squeezer, yeah,
Yeah, one Hughes drum, and then 2 small ones.
yeah.
Right.
I'd sit there for hours and poke
Feeding
the
the
cane
cane
in there, and it'd go
Yeah.
around.
But the thing that intrigued me is the juice went over to this big pan but the horse was going over the trough with the juice. So it wasn't clean, I wouldn't think.
No, I don't remember ours. We had the horse up on the bank, and that's where I was running the cane through the mill.
But we
And then
we did that in the
evaporator and everything was down lower.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, I remember
See,
down
I
on the
didn't
flat,
know
but
that,
what I was
but I
saying is,
remember.
the juice as it come out had to get to that pad.
Oh, yeah.
And the horse was going over the little tin trough that carried the juice over to the.
Oh, yeah, the
That's why,
pipe. Uh-huh.
yeah, I used to say to Mom, how can you do that? Isn't there, I won't use the terminology in there, because he was walking over there all day. And
Yeah.
she'd say, oh, it's all cooked out, son, don't worry about that. It's all cooked out.
Do you remember when we had that set up with there at our place?
I don't.
You don't remember that? Well, when I have a memory of, you remember where the old flume was? Before the new house?
Oh, yeah.
The old flume, well, they set up a deal where they did the sorghum
Huh.
there, but I remember it boiling,
Oh, yes.
and it
We had-
smelled
Oh,
wonderful.
yeah.
We,
You had to skim it all the time.
we had 8 different sections. The big one on one end and the big one on the other end, and then 6 smaller ones. They'd go in this end and come out of that
Right.
end. And then as we burn the steam out of it, move it on. And then the last one was where you made the molasses. Yeah, Mother and Dee would stand there hours on hours skimming that skim off
Oh,
of the
yeah.
top of it.
That was hot
And
work.
somebody was always feeding the cane into
Well, that was me a lot of the time.
Feeding the cane.
I'm going to tell you, Maureen and I just started dating a little bit. I said, grew up here, went to the dances and things, and never even paid any attention. But I said, she was teaching school. She had taught over at Dry Lake the first year and came back
I remember
here.
that, right.
And she brought her 4th grade kids up to watch us when we was making molasses.
Oh.
And I was sitting there, poking the cane through, and I had a 10-gallon can. And when they'd need more juice down in the vat, Mom would just say, we need more juice, son. And I'd open a valve, and then it'd run down in the vat.
Yeah.
And do you remember Glade Waite?
Oh, you did?
Glade always spoke kind of funny, had a
I remember that.
But anyway,
Come in.
I opened that
Yeah.
valve and the juice all started to come running down,
You
quite
are-
a stream and shot out into that valve and
I'm
Glade
Larky.
says,
Or Laura.
"Whoa,
Larky
look at the
or
tooth, look
Laura.
at the tooth."
Yeah, I'm
She
Andy's
hadn't
oldest
seen
boy.
Glade for years and we went up to a
That's
Liberty
Millie.
Union up to Salt Lake.
And that's Shirley.
I say,
Yeah,
she
yeah,
said,
who is she?
That's and Ethel Leavitt, Dutch Leavitt's wife from Bunkerville.
Oh, yes.
And that's her daughter-in-law. Hi, Aunt Ethel, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
not do like I like to do,
How
but
wonderful of all of you. We're really reminiscing here, so it's wonderful.
Why don't you sit down right there, Carol?
I'll sit on that. I'll
Sure.
leave these pictures.
Well,
you're the one that we named the show building after too, you're the one.
well, I named it for Howard and
Yes.
And
Elmer.
Elwood.
You're the
Elmer.
one,
That's
you're
how
the
it
one that
goes,
won the
name.
prize for the name.
That was
Yeah.
Elwood. I thought that was the.
I used to run the projector and she used to be my usher.
Yeah,
when we
my
first
little
built that
flesh.
theater, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we've sure had a
I
great
wondered
time
how-
so
how
far,
that
just
went
talking
if
about
you're
old
still
times.
alive.
And I remember, Bud,
I know,
I had the black
you
velvet
do have that,
pants.
don't you?
Yes.
I say I had the black velvet pants and it had a gold stripe down the
Yeah,
and
when
a
you was
gold
usher.
satin blouse. They even gave me a uniform.
We went to a lot of movies over there.
And Ed Woodbury and sister Cornelia Hardy them old silent films. Look out, he's a-coming, he's gonna hit you. Look out, he's behind that rock.
You done son of a bitch, can't you
Remember
see him behind that rock?
You remember, was it Martin?
Martin
that
Levitt.
stuttered?
Yes.
He used to just stand up and holler, watch out, you son, here, he never gets son of a
I
bitch
think a lot of the
out.
time
He was
you have to
trying.
watch them and spit the show.
The guy'd go around the rock the other way and he'd get so mad. Go back, go back. Well, we didn't have sound, but we had good dialogue.
Yeah, they had those old films, one film at a time. They'd run one and then stop and rewind it and then go away. Right along. It's like all the pictures now. They have to stop for commercials. We had ours in between times.
Absolutely.
And I can remember my mother saying, "What are you fool, you fool, what are you doing?"
We were laughing yesterday that I was telling Shirley and Millie that I remember the first time that I ever saw my mother without her teeth. And because I was a young kid, I guess she always took them out and put them away and had them up when I got up, so I never did notice her had teeth. But she was in a play. They had some big play or something in the
Oh, they had
stage.
them all the time.
And she come out and had her hair all straight down and no teeth. Scared me to death. I never will forget that. And it took forever for everybody to convince me that that was my mom. Elmer Hughes was shaking me saying, "It's your mother, it's your mother."
It was a before and after.
Bill Strasser. My dad was in them plays and it wasn't Frank Levitt, one of the Levitts was the villain. He stabbed my dad, you know, and he fell over, and Bill Strasser, my nephew, jumped up and began to scream, "You killed my grandpa, you killed my..."
Oh dear.
How you doing?
The other trick I remember, we were talking about toys and what we did for fun and tar for chewing gum and all this kind of stuff. And hey Don, would you shoot a couple of 3 pictures for me with this? All you have to do is aim and press that middle button and hear it click good, and that's it. The other way. There you go, yeah. But I remember, wait a minute, I got out of sync here.
Those,
On Halloween,
and
besides going
what
down in
was
the
his
melon
wife's
patches
name?
and taking the core out of the
played for all the
watermelons,
dances,
picking
the
black grapes,
violin and the
moving
mandolin.
toilets around and stuff, I remember.
George Buller and Nancy.
See if I remember
Oh,
this right, we used to take
haven't we danced to
a
their
piece of,
music for hours?
like a violin string or
Isn't that
nylon,
a sweet
and
picture?
put a fish hook on the end of
Oh,
it,
my goodness.
and then hook it into the screen on the
I
window.
don't know,
Sure.
we had,
Yeah.
Go way out and
Aunt Leah.
use rosin on it, and it is squeal in. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that- yeah. I was trying to remember that the other day. I remember you used to do that with Harper.
All the time.
Oh, he was always after us. It was more fun having him after us than it was anything else.
Them Halloween deals, Elmer Hughes come out on the step and start shooting shotgun. We'd
Didn't he
scatter it. Well, you bet he did. Of course, he's shooting in the air, but we didn't know it.
Yeah, he didn't know what he's shooting at you.
Old Doc Hughes said one day, he said that damn bullet passed me and then it passed him.
Whoever got here, paid for all what you
That's it, Shirley?
Oh,
The brothers
Really?
worked there.
Oh, you
Little
know,
wires.
All brothers,
got it.
they'd get to being smart. Of course, Bill Harper and Edgar Leavitt had come there every day.
Oh, thank you.
Edgar, is that the one that was married to Messiah?
Yeah,
They'd come down there every day to the cafe. And this day, Harper got there before the other one. Anyway, he went in and sat in the booth and fell asleep. But old Hal Brotherson and Vaughn with him got the beer cans out of the garbage, set him up in front of it. Pretty soon here come Edgar.
Edgar.
This up to the window. He come in and Vaughn says, "Well, Edgar, I think your old pal has slipped. And that woke Harper up. And if you don't think he'll hit the fan, he threw them cans in every direction.
Maybe you can enlighten me a little more on it. I know we talked about it, Shirley and I and Millie yesterday, but I just have a reflection, and I don't know whether it's all true or not, but they said it was, and I'm trying to remember. Didn't your dad have a thrashing crew?
Oh, yes, we thrashed all of the valley for years.
And I remember they wore red handkerchiefs or bandanas
Yeah.
over their nose, around tied, because I remember when Mom would always feed the crew.
Yeah,
And there was a bench out at the door, out front, and a big basin, and a big pitcher or bucket of water. And that's where everybody come in and washed up. And I remember that they never were all that clean. I mean, their hands were clean and their face was clean, but there was dirt from yeah. And you did that, yeah. I'm trying to figure out why we were connected with that, but Shirley said we had wheat and stuff that you thrashed for us. So evidently we did, but I don't recall that we had it.
Yeah, but I remember the thrashers was coming, you prepared for it.
Oh, yeah, Mom knew
Had a
days
day
ahead what
set.
day they were gonna be there.
But part of our acre, we had 5 acres, but part of that was in grain.
yeah.
When you guys were doing that, and you took your turn feeding the threshers, and they'd come, they'd do Uncle Ray's, and we didn't have as much as Uncle Ray next door, but they would do his, and then they would come and do
Humidor.
next door.
That's
Yeah, we
amazing.
start out in the spring of the year and do the wheat, and then the alfalfa seed,
Yeah,
and then later in the fall, we do the beet seed.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just one right after the other.
Right, and your whole crew, I mean, you had
Yeah,
I think you hired people too, didn't you?
about the only ones we hired was 1 or 2 of the son-in-laws.
Yeah, it seemed to me like it was always the Hughes, Mom always said the Hughes, yeah.
Well, see, there was 7 of us.
Right, but we set up big old plank tables, I know,
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember that, yeah.
Fred,
And the sisters that fed us would go out of their way to make it, one of the
Yeah.
best meals that they could.
Oh, yeah.
Only you
Oh,
betcha,
yeah.
but Mom, I can remember, Mama
I
really
remember
did.
we were always excited because it was good food for
And
one.
the thresher's coming.
Wasn't
Threshers
bread and
coming.
bread and
I
gravy.
didn't leave the room because Uncle Arthur always got to telling stories and so I wouldn't miss any of them.
I want to ask you, Franz, this is the sweetest picture of your family, but how many's still alive? It has the names and I remember it. Isn't that something? Remembered
There's
every
only
child.
Cormelia and
2 girls.
Vida and Owen and I.
Just 4 of
Is
you
Vida
left.
still alive?
Yes,
Oh, I haven't seen
Out
Vida
of
for
the
years.
Here they are, right here, see?
Oh, my heavens, yeah.
And there's 4 left
Well, Wes,
and 3
Wesley?
left.
Oh, yeah, he's been there a long while.
he and Carl Woodbury were good, wasn't it Wes?
Wes.
Wes and
Yes.
Tex and
And
Carl
Tex.
mostly.
Tex and Carl, yeah.
Yeah, and he went with a girl, one of my girlfriends, and the 2 of it, and I was going with Carl a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And when Wes went on his mission, I made it a deal to send him candy. And you remember when I made all that sent candy?
Candy that you made to send
It was
them.
for Wes.
Mission-
for
was it
Wes
for
that
that
I made
Wes
all
for?
that candy.
Wes was
for
a
that.
basketball star.
It was
Everybody
Tex.
really was.
I learned how to really do
They'll see
all,
how
all
tall
the
he is
fancy
compared to the
candies.
rest of us.
I remember
Of course, here I am, the smallest one of the bunch.
But it was Laura Bowler that he was going.
Yes, that's
And
right.
you were going with Carl, with Barry and you, and Laura and Tex, because I remember you at our
Thor's
house.
right here.
I'm
She was
just,
go dance. I said,
but I remember
you could
that.
cut more capers and Thor was quite heavy, but I
Well,
said,
she
it
was,
made no
but boy,
difference.
she was light on her feet. Well, I used to dance so you know, just loved it.
Yeah.
And we were dating, there's 4 of us all run together, and all the little Utah towns up through southern Utah had open air dances on Saturday
yeah.
night.
You bet.
We just made our rounds, going around. And all 4 of us come back. 3 of us married girls right here from town. Art married Wilma, I married Maureen, and George Hughes married Billy Gibbs. Alf Tobler, he had met a girl up to BYU from Idaho. The 3 of us come right back here to marry.
Isn't it?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, that is, this is.
Well, I remember that Carl
That's my
and Jerry,
mother.
they did the
Oh, that is.
Uh-huh.
Uncle Charles now.
a golden.
Golden Green
I think that was
Golden
taken
Green
on their
Bell.
60th
We
wedding
went in
anniversary, and
Mesquite,
Mother died
and we went
in
somewhere
June.
else.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
We lost in Cedar.
Well, I was trying to remember the other day now. Where you
But
lived
we
at
lost
Mesquite,
our-
where you used to have that, all that property
But
up there.
we
Yeah.
lost it.
Wasn't
See,
it
that's
Germ Levitt
right.
or somebody that lived down
But
on the
we learned
corner?
how
Germ lived right on the corner.
Then beyond, there used to be a road that went from your place. It seemed to me like it was north of your place, it went down, there was fields, one beyond.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
clear on up,
Well, in one of those fields, that was lined with cottonwood trees.
all of them.
That's when the old Fokker airplane lit there in the plowed field
Oh,
one day.
in Edgar Levitt's
Is
field.
that what it was?
Edgar Levitt's field.
I won't ever forget that because Denzel and I had watched it come in, and so we couldn't wait to get there. And so we got there, the guy said that he would take one of us up if we'd go get him some gas. He was low on gas. So Denzel said, well, you do it. You always want to go flying, so you do it. So I go, okay. So I got run with this gas can. I think it was about a 2.5, 3 gallon. It wasn't a full 5.
Probably up there to Archie
Yeah,
Hughes'
went up there
station.
and got the gas, got back to the field, worn out. And the pilot put the gas in the plane, and then Denzel got in the plane for the flight. I never did forgive him for that.
I don't blame you.
Dirty rat.
I remember that old plane coming in there, and when it hit the ground, of course, the ground was rough.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, bounce this way and bounce that way.
There was another time up the Arizona strip there, going up over the
Uh-huh,
mountain, the
yeah.
Arizona. There was a plane went down up there
Yeah.
somewhere, and your family, some way, I remember was connected with, went up with a flatbed wagon.
Wagon to
And
load the
brought that
plane
out
out
of there.
and brought it out. Yeah.
That's funny.
I think it was one of the old airmail planes or something
Uh-huh.
that was flying, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think those were the forerunners of Alvy Colton and Fent Frainer building that little strip up on the hill.
I'll
there.
bet, I'll
Yeah.
bet, yeah. I'll be darned. Well, I met one of the Frainers, and I'm trying to remember, can't remember at this moment what his first name was, but he was here. I met him in the temple, and he said to me, where are you from, Abbott? And I said, from Mesquite. Who are you? And I told him, he said, I think I have something for you. And I didn't think about it. About 3 or 4 days later, he's gone on a mission since then, he and his wife, but he brought
Well,
me
that would be Verl.
that, okay.
Yeah.
So he brought me this,
No, it's,
little story that his father had written. And it all concerned about them going to go rabbit hunting up where the Big Bend, they had 2
Yeah.
different names for that area. And they'd come up over this little hill and they could hear a flood coming, but they could see a wagon out in the flood with a little boy in there just screaming, hollering for daddy, and they couldn't see anybody around. So he rode the horse out into the stream and got the little kid out of the wagon and back to the bank just as it crested the wagon rolled and everything. And my dad come running up, and it was Denzel. And I said, isn't it startling? I mean, you don't put things together, but startling that he was almost taken
Yeah.
once by water, and then finally he was taken by water. That's
Yeah.
just kind of startling. But he saved my dad's life.
Yeah.
Because he said he had a premonition that there wasn't anybody around. He had to go get that kid. So, yeah.
I've got a question. question. I've got to ask Ethel. I've heard stories about something about a boat you had in the basement and a piano story. Could you tell either of those stories for us?
Yeah,
The
please.
same.
Are they both the
One
same?
and the same, isn't it? When the fire and you push the piano out.
Oh, yeah. That's, we had the store over in Bunkerville. And Dutch was building a boat. We took some of the shelves out of the store, and he was using them shelves because it's such good lumber to build in the boat. And he built it down in the basement under the store. And when he got it about done, it fell off the sawhorse and they displaced it. And where he was working, the guy down there told him, if you get some banana oil and go over that bolt, that'll seal that, hold up, that crack. So he did. And this morning after he got it all done and it looked so good, and here come Kay Bunker and Alva ready to go to work, and he said, come on down the basement, I've got to show you, I've got my boat fixed. So they went down the basement, and of course there's only one light as you pull to go down, and it was back further, and so they struck a match to get up under there. And proved that banana oil just set that thing. And they come out, and then they go along the edge, and Kay Bunker's was the first thing out of there, and I could see him on fire. The Dutch come right behind him and said, get the kids out. Well, I took the kids and out and put them in the car and took them up the street, and I said, you sit there, don't you get out till I come after you. I went back and I moved my piano out, I moved everything in my living part out, but my stove, it was gas, so I couldn't unhook it. And when they went to put that piano back in, it took 7 minutes to put the piano back in my house.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's a lovely.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
She and her husband, for years, was only the dance orchestra that we had around here. He played the,
Of course.
oh heavens,
On the,
Steve Johnson?
no,
yours.
you and Dutch.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What?
Not the trombone, what did Grandpa play?
Saxophone.
Saxophone. He played the saxophone and you played the piano.
Oh,
And I remember
those two
when you played
instruments is what they had.
The sax and clarinet.
Clarinet.
Yeah.
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 I'm
Don
trying
gave
to
me a
figure
picture
out
of the old,
Dutch level.
the old place where we played for,
He was
up
the
on
youngest
Jack
child,
Hardy's
was he?
Oh,
He's the youngest
apartments up there,
of-
yeah.
Yeah. And that open air dance hall
Oh,
up there.
yeah.
Heck, why did you
Yeah.
ask me?
Oh, that was so
Well, he
neat.
was had a call on telephone a while back. It's only been a couple of months ago when this guy gave me his name, and I thought, at first I thought it sounded like a Mexican. I thought, you've got the wrong number. And he said, is this Ethel Leavitt? And I said, and then when he said the name, I said, yes, it is. And he said, give me his name again, where he was from. He said, do you still play for the senior citizens? And I said, no.
There's the old picture of the old dance hall.
Yeah.
He had the garage underneath the dance hall and Shardino had a little store to the side.
Yeah. Anyway, he said, well, I went there all the time and I said, listen, do you play? And he said,
That's
I
wonderful.
wondered if you still play, if you could give me a piano lessons. And I said, I'm sorry, but I can't. I don't know what I'm playing my own self. And he said, what do you mean? I said, because I play by ear. And he said, well, this lady that was playing when I was there, she had a book in front of her all the time. And I said, I had a book in front of me all the time too, but all it was sang titles.
Never learned a tune from a book. You learned by the ear, everything you play.
Let me see your paper there.
Oh, we were
She's
talking the other day
oldest,
about,
and Grandpa was the youngest.
Uncle
in the
Ray.
family.
and Joanne.
Oh.
Remember Joanne? They're up to
You
the-
mean, Arella?
And Joanne played
Arella
piano
was
for
the-
me.
Yeah, she
She's
did.
our-
Uh-huh.
She's,
And I was
No,
trying to
she's
figure
the
out,
oldest-
telling Millie
she
that
was
the
the
thing
oldest.
that
Oh, so
always
she was a
intrigued me is
sister.
Uncle
No.
Ray would
Oh,
never let
Grandpa
her
was
play
the-
for a dance
Grandpa
was
unless he could
her
go with her.
Her brother.
and be
And
there.
that's who they
And
call
if he couldn't
Dutch.
be there,
Was
she
her-
never got to
I
play.
Laura,
see.
his name was
That's
Laura.
always intrigued me, is why he
Why?
had such
I see then.
such possession, or I don't know whether he was afraid
Uh-huh.
or what, but we thought about that a lot. Why he was,
Yeah,
he just would not let her.
They had those two kids, Joanne
Yeah,
and
Blaine.
Blaine.
Yeah, I saw Blaine just before he was killed.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
boy, he was a handsome guy.
Oh.
And he turned out to be a
He was good looking.
really handsome
He
fellow.
married a little gal up to Tonkerville.
Yeah, yeah.
And he did have a child or
Oh, did he?
two.
I didn't know.
Yes, she had a child or
Yeah,
two.
it was
But
amazing.
through the years, I don't
Yeah.
know who she remarried or
Yeah.
what, or if she even lives around there. He was in the service, and
Yes.
after that, they got divorced, or something.
And I was telling Millie and Shirley yesterday that, you know, I was working in the temple, and there's one guy, as we went back into one of the rooms, he said to me, "I think I'm related to you." And I
We
said,
were
"Oh,"
related by-
because the name is
Yeah.
like Swick or something, I don't remember. And I said, "How could you relate it to me?" And he said, "No, I mean through my wife." And I said, "Well, how?" And he said, "Well, she was an Abbott." And I said, "Oh, well,
These
I
are
don't
their
know.
kids,
You
but
know
she's
who
his
her
sister.
dad was?" And he said,
To
"No."
Dutch.
And I said, "Well, I'll have to
And so-
She
get
was
with
the
her and see
baby,
if I can
and she
find
was-
out." So I did happen to see her, and she's a very nice, attractive lady, especially in the temple. She just demands attention when you walk in a room, you know, it's like. So I saw her one day and I come over and introduced myself, and I said, "I understand that the two of us may be related." And I said, "I'm an Abbott." She said, "So am I." And I said, "Well, what family did you come from?" She said, "I'm Devona Abbott's
Oh,
daughter."
for heaven's sake.
It really was a shocker to me, but she was so lovely. She was
Probably after that, Devona moved to Idaho then.
probably a very nice lady.
I saw her just a little while before she passed away. We
Did
were
you
up
really?
there, and Art and Wilma, they had all, when we'd go up, Little Bunkerville was up there in Idaho.
Oh, no kidding.
All of them that moved from here right after the
Yeah.
war, all moved up in Idaho.
in
The
Idaho.
Waits,
Is that where Uncle Ray went?
yeah, the Abbott, Uncle Ray, the Waits, and the
Oh, really?
Levitts,
I didn't
just a
realize.
slew of them.
Huh.
And when we'd go up, Art and Wilma, of course Art was my nephew,
Right.
and he'd always take us around to visit all of them, and we'd just spend 2 or 3 days just going around visiting those old friends.
Huh.
And I saw her just a short time before she died.
Is this a
Would you
beautiful
remember when
picture?
they put the road through here?
That's a beautiful
Made it the
picture.
main drag? Do you remember what year?
I don't.
Bob was in on, your husband was in on the surveying.
Well, he
getting
was
the
a
road
surveyor
done.
here,
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I remember, well, no, it wouldn't have been that road. I remember Dad and them working roads long before then, but it must have been out here, but they used that old, I don't know what you call them. I guess it's scraper,
Well, yeah,
but they were a horrible looking thing. They had,
they called one a Fresno, and then one was a regular, scraper.
yeah, they would pull that thing back and the blade and scrape with it behind a team.
Uh-huh.
Get all that deal, and then they'd tip it and come back. And it was hard, dirty, dusty work.
but we
If I
used
ever
to-
seen anything like it.
We used to ride
They're,
it.
they're still hard and dirty and dusty.
Yeah.
Don't you remember riding it?
Uh-uh.
We used to ride the scraper.
Yeah, stand on the back of the team, stand on there,
Oh, really?
when it was flat
as-
down, you
as
know.
kids,
They still
We'd
have
get
that.
it- we'd have a turn riding the
Yeah.
scraper.
On them.
Well, the
Dad-
greatest memory that I have of any really disaster in childhood, other than my dad, is I have some faint recollections of when the dam got washed out and how they rang a bell and everybody knew the dam was out for some reason. All the men and all the women and everybody was just involved in seeing that the water was put back because we were gonna lose, we didn't have any way to live unless we had that water. And I remember the guys, the wagons, because I went with somebody, I can't remember who, Dad was dead after this one happened. But they had two different kinds of wagons. They had wagons that were flatbed with just a sideboard on them. And then they had wagons with racks.
Well, you see
And
the
they'd roll
flats.
they'd roll the rock up planks up onto that one wagon that would have just the little sideboard. And then they'd cut tamaracks and all that kind of brush and put on the other. And then they'd take those teams and go out in that still flooded water, and they'd take the wagon with the rocks in here, and then the ones with the brush upstream, and they'd roll the brush off the upstream, and they'd float down and get against the wheels of the wagon with the rock. And then they'd roll those great big old boulders off onto that rock and build up that enough to get the water back into the place. And I remember being there one time when a team drowned, and I never
George
will forget.
Huntsman.
That was the most horrible sound I ever heard in my life, and nobody could do anything about it. It was just, but I remember that, and it always stuck with me
Well,
about.
that
Whose
would
team
be
was it?
That would be
Huntsman's? Is it Huntsman's?
the male thing,
George
the ginger
Huntsman
thing.
was the one that lost his team.
Yeah, man, that was a horrible mess. But I guess they had to do that every time.
Every time high water came down the river.
Yeah.
Jim Abbott over Bunkville had a solution how to fix that dam up here. The men was to take their wagons and go up to the mountain here. And those great big boulders, he says, that weighs maybe 2 or 3 tons. He said, just roll them over in your wagon. Then you get down here where that hole is, just chuck them right down
Yeah,
there.
chuck them right
Chuck
in.
them right in. Chuck them right in.
I just about,
Easy.
I just
Check 'em
about
right in.
got drowned up there in the river.
But you know, the floods weren't all that bad. I mean, they had their bad thing, but I remember that we had a cistern. We called them cistern, I don't know whether.
That's what they were.
And out under the old willow tree there.
We had the biggest cistern in the.
It was I don't remember how big it was or how deep, but you always waited till the water was the muddiest. That was snow water, Mother
Yeah.
used to tell me. And we'd fill that old cistern up. Then you waited for the mud to all settle to the bottom, so you had pure, and it was great until you found a dead cat or something down in it. Then you had to get down in there and muck that
Then
thing
you had
out.
to clean that cistern out, but it was going to have to get mud all out there to clean it out before you could put more in.
And
It was
the
so
wood,
spooky
that's
to
where
go-
we got all of our wood for the fires and stuff,
Yeah.
is after the flood, you get out and pick
Yeah,
up
they're
all
up
of this old wood.
floatwood on the river.
Then we get down and ride waves as kids.
Oh, don't even mention that.
Your belly come back raw.
Some of the waves would break and you'd go straight through them, the other one you'd go up over and then drag your belly on the
On that gravel.
gravel.
Oh, was that
This
in a
one we
flood?
did have kids drowned in that
It
when
right
the
in
floods up.
floods?
They're just dumb enough that when the floods come, they'd get a hold of the trees that
Yeah,
you go down and go as far as it'd take them.
that's right. Vern Frainer and Jim Pulsifer and Marion Bowler used to ride their horses out in there, old Orson Levitt. They'd go downstream for a mile before they could ever get out. Them
Yeah.
horses floundering in that river like.
Oh, yeah. And that's why it's so amazing to look at it now and remember all of this stuff and how the big floods were and stuff, and you think, my heavens.
Al Wharton had a little old burro that run loose in town, do you remember that? Al Wharton. Big old flood coming, a bunch of us guys got that burro and took him down, shoved him out in the flood. He went down a while, finally he come out, but he was sure a different looking burro when he come
Now, see, you couldn't do that today.
No, you daren't even think it.
I've got another question. Carol, you're from the Waite family. Is Vicky Waite, how is she related to you?
Vicky Waite, she married my brother.
Okay, because they donated this old record.
Oh, is that right?
So I just want another connection.
Whoa, yeah,
Oh,
that's
great.
very cool.
Okay.
Now, are you related to Jay Waite and Roy Waite?
Roy's is a cousin to my dad.
Oh, yeah. Because I see Jay every once in a while up in Salt Lake.
Well,
My
Not
dad-
Jay,
Still
not
living
Jay,
in
but Floyd,
Floyd,
Floyd, yeah,
yeah.
Floyd, yeah, not Jay. Yeah.
Did you say you were related to Jay Wade?
Their dad, they were cousins to my dad.
Oh,
Yeah, they're from
Jesse.
Jesse Wade.
all right. I dated Jay Wade.
Oh, is that right?
A few,
You know, when Jay was on the basketball team all the time, he said he spent more time on the floor on his back than he did on his feet.
Excuse me,
You
getting
were a
hoarse.
sorry little guy, though.
Yeah, he was. He really was. He was a great little guy. Yeah. And I was trying to remember the other day about, we used to get mail, but the mail seemed to only come about once or twice a week. Was
About
that
3
right?
times usually.
And wasn't it by car?
Oh, yeah,
The cars were just coming in.
just coming in, yeah. They had the road between here and Las Vegas then, down around the old river into the St. Thomas and
St.
back
Thomas,
out.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Well,
And-
now, oh, excuse me, but I had a memory, or thought I was told, that when Mama brought me home from the hospital, I was the only one she had a doctor with up to
yes.
Salt Lake. Because Grandma Mariah died, so she went to Salt Lake, listened to St. George. And I was told she came home on the mail truck.
Well,
Brought
yeah.
me home on the mail
They used to
truck.
carry people.
Herb Waite used to, wasn't it Herb that drove the mail truck?
My dad used to drive it.
I knew your
Yeah,
dad
yeah.
did.
but I remember
And
because.
that was in 1924, so they must have had a
My
little
brother,
run by car then.
Yeah, well, yes, and
Had contracts.
people, there was a few people that had little money and they had an old refrigerator that you put ice on top, you know. And they'd get a 50-pound cake of ice up to St. George. When they got it home, they'd have a 25-pound cake of ice. Yeah,
Didn't have it brought by mail.
yeah.
Well, they used to build just a frame.
I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
the day you
Put 20
came.
sacks on
I,
it.
my brother
The ice
Ethel
up
and I
front,
were on our
put
way
it
to
open,
school,
out in here.
and we were in front of.
I was telling
Uncle
Millie
Jimmy,
and Shirley yesterday that I
where
remember
the
the
mail
old
was.
ice
Uncle
house.
Jimmy Hughes.
Yeah,
Over
over there at Bunkerville.
They had that 100-pound ice.
There was Mama.
And I remember
holding
going
the
and
new
getting
baby,
the
and
ice.
my Aunt Melissa.
And
Oh,
I
that's
think it
when
was
she
the
came to visit
teacher's
us.
corps
On the mail
that
truck.
And the
would
mail
break the ice up into
And
small
that's the
pieces
first
and
time
put them
I
in
saw
quart
you was in
jars.
this pink box.
And then as deacons, we would
Yeah,
put
that was
the
what I
bottles around the
understood.
legs of the
When-
deceased to keep
So
the
I
body.
know
Yeah.
they came by car.
Yeah, we did that
Yeah.
for,
But later,
I know,
until I was
know that
almost
they
a teacher.
delivered on
Then they stopped that, they got, I
Had the
don't know
mail
what happened, they
contract.
could
In
preserve
a
the
certain
body
place
better
they'd
or
go
something,
from-
but.
maybe
But
from
the old ice
St.
house
George
always
to
intrigued me that
Wyatt
we had
Park
ice
from
out in this,
Hurstville.
in this desert. You know, how could you be 180 degrees outside and walk in there and pull out a big hunk of
But
ice?
it was so much fun to go in that big old place.
It was, it really was.
Right across there
Cool
was
in
Uncle
there,
Jim's
yeah.
house.
So, yeah,
And his wife died, they had her laid out on the door.
used planks to,
Yeah, yeah.
And Uncle Vince and who was the other, they were supposed to watch over the body. Anyway, to keep the cats and things out. Well, the wind come up and, of course, they had the doors open, the wind come up and took the sheet off of her. And those two boys was gone. I didn't know where they'd gone.
I've heard him tell a
Watching
story.
Red no more. That's for sure.
Heard him tell the story about, it wasn't a Perkins, but a humpback guy that was humped quite a bit. He said they had him tied down with the ropes to keep him straight, you know.
Yeah.
And the girls was taking their turn of changing the cloths, some kind of acid, or it wasn't acid or something, that they bathed them in, you know,
Yeah.
till they could get them buried. Some of the boys slipped in and loosened the ropes. Said these girls come in and ready to take over, and said, he just raised up. Said, you talk about screaming.
Oh, my goodness. Lynn Mom's history, she refers to, as a young girl, that one of the big excitements and things that she had was riding a horse from here down to Moapa to see the train. You know what I think? Holy criminy. You go all that way to see a train? But you know, as I think back what we've talked about today, about the toys that we had and the games we had to play and stuff, pretty amazing that there wasn't
train was
more,
amazing
when you
to
stop
them.
and think that
Yes.
there wasn't more crime or more really problems than we had. It's amazing, and the only thing that I can attribute it to, and this may be crazy as I try to, so yes, everybody was busy.
They didn't have any
Didn't
TV
have
to
any
watch, they didn't have any,
distraction.
no,
You had to communicate.
they had to work,
or work
they had to
yourself.
work.
Uh-huh.
I can hear her tell about that train.
We would ride the beaver dams on our horses. Of course, Rena never rode a horse. The time we got over between Bunkerville and Mesquite, Rena said, just leave me here, let me die, let me die. I can't ride this horse to beaver dam. Well, Rutger Atkin come by in his truck and was headed to St. George. And he picked her up and turned the horse loose and took her back to Bunkerville. Denzel and I went on. Well, Denzel had a girlfriend up there, and I was going to Moroni, and he was working up there. But we went up, and time we come back, I said, reading it off the mantle shelf for quite a long while. On that horse.
I was 9 years old when I went to St. George the first time.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Dee and S was both dating girls up there. Dee was dating Lois Judd, and S was dating Ines Pickett. And S got a call to go on a mission, and they went up to get them to come down to their farewell. They let me go. We had 5 flat tires. had that old Dodge truck with a canvas top and no sides. And
Yeah,
we had 5 flat tires, and we'd jack a wheel up, take it off, and put a patch on it, pump it up, set it back on. That was my first trip to St. George.
yeah, and that sounds about right, 5 flat tires, yeah. And then they were always flat.
Grandpa told about going down to Moapa to see the train. Wasn't it Grandpa that was telling, and the conductor said, because they were all watching, they were so excited about that train, and he said, watch out boys, because I'm going to turn this thing around.
I remember Mother saying about when she went, to see it. She says, why, I never seen such a sight in my life.
Yeah.
Just a huffing and a puffing.
She was really overcome by it
she
all.
was so thrilled about it.
Oh,
dear.
That's so unbelievable what has happened to us
Oh.
over the years. But they were so great memories,
Huh?
so wonderful.
How did
Yeah.
we survive?
Yeah, but that's it. Is it like we were talking? It's like bringing you up to date. I saw a thing the other day, an article about some men, computer guys,
Uh-huh.
and they had decided, there was a group of them in Chicago and a place, that once a year they would get together, just come together and have no computers, but sit down and learn how to communicate again to each other and to see each other again because they had lost all
Lost.
contact. It's a machine and a person, but and I think that's what happened to us. We were always involved with somebody else, or if you weren't, you were daydreaming or trying to figure something out yourself. You had to do something, and nowadays that isn't it. It's all entertain me, entertain me, take care of me.
I think that's what drives your children crazy with us, is that we are always trying to think, oh, now what'll I do with that?
Yeah.
I mean, if it breaks or if it has a little crack or if it has, what'll I do with that? They don't even think.
Yeah,
Throw 'em
throw it
away and get
Go get another one.
We're trying to think of some way.
Do any of you have memories of the room you're sitting in what it was a long time ago? This room, did any of you have?
I don't even know what it was a long time ago.
Wasn't this Bertha's little, this is her?
I think it was Bertha's and Charlie's living quarters.
Or was it?
Yeah.
Do you remember,
I remember
sis?
coming through, bring my little youngest boy that I'd adopted,
I
wanted him
didn't
to get a
catch
shot.
what he asked.
I told him I was bringing him over to get a shot. He said, Mama, I don't need to get shot. He was just a little tiny student. I said, well, you gotta have a shot so you won't get the chicken pox and
Oh,
diphtheria and what was the other? Tetanus, was that? Anyway, when we got over here, that room with, that side was choker block full. There's one seat right back to the very corner. And I remember crawling back in there, taking that kid and crawling back to sit on that seat. And he done pretty well. And all once one of the kids back here must have got shot. And he started yelling, "Get me out of here, I told you I didn't need a shot. Where's my dad? He'll get me out of here."
So I told Bertha gave the shots pretty directly.
When he come back through here, I finally got him quieted down when it came time for him to be back here for his shot. And he looked at that nurse, he says, "I told you, I didn't need a shot. I don't want one." He still got it.
Do you remember that back in the early days when we were bordering, because that's wasn't any money,
Yeah, that's right.
and Elmer Hughes had the store, so you got your stuff from Elmer, but you took in eggs and chicken
Yeah.
and whatever. Do you remember what the exchange was? I was trying to remember how many eggs it used to cost me to go to the show or get a candy bar.
There were probably two.
And
Two or three at the most.
something like that.
We
What,
had
that's
little
about two.
eggs and-
Yeah.
You think
I was
without two
working for
eggs?
Kenneth at the time,
Yeah.
and the little grandhorny,
Uh-huh.
he wouldn't come when Kenneth, he wouldn't come with his eggs while Kenneth was there. He said, "I get more from my eggs when Ethel's there." Kenneth is putting it over the door. He said, "I get more from my eggs when Ethel's there instead of Kenneth."
Uncle Abe Woodbury had that little old
Oh, yeah.
store up there. Anybody had come in, and if he had one item that they wanted, he wouldn't let them have it because it was the last one. He couldn't
Last
be
one
out.
he had.
Last one he had.
I remember that. It's always, you go in and want a piece of candy.
Yeah.
Last one, can't have it. I haven't got any more.
Tiny square.
You-
I-
I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
That's
Two
true.
for a penny.
But you know, Elmer's store was an interesting place. Because that was the post office.
Yeah.
Plus the store.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of a place where you could always meet and talk with people and stuff.
Well, Howard had that garage right
Yeah,
together,
right
and
side, so
everybody
yeah,
all congregated there.
Oh, yeah. So it's, and that's where I saw my first movie,
Well, that's
was
what
in that old garage.
I did too,
Yeah.
sitting on a plank
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
old garage.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
know that.
The first one. And it was a, if I remember right, it's silent.
Yeah, it was
And,
silent, black and white.
and how marveled we was.
Yeah, they had a sheet pulled up
That's
on the,
exactly, yeah.
sit there on,
Those old
they'd
plates.
taken cement block, put wood planks on them, and that's where we sit.
Yeah, that's the first
You
movie
loved
I
it,
saw.
But you know, France, you mentioning when you came back, you know, what dated those girls or whatever it
Yes,
was,
uh-huh.
then went on a mission and come back. That used to be the exciting thing, was a missionary farewell.
Oh, you bet.
I remember as a little girl, those cakes and pies
Oh,
and
yeah.
cookies and quilts. Those women worked for days to give those missionaries to raise that money and give them that send-off, those
Yeah.
women in the valley.
When Wes and Maureen went, they went the same time. And they had their farewell together.
Is that right?
They made $780 divided between the two
Between
of
the
them.
two of them, yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
But I can still see those cakes and those
Yes.
and old wood stoves and
Yeah.
how we did. And now today, the little missionaries slip out and
Yeah.
go and
Don't have to do that anymore. Is it?
no, but it was And I
Well, yeah,
never
they
go
got-
up
the
to
church had
the
it.
cemetery
Yes, yes, they
and
did.
walk through
Uh-huh.
that cemetery.
Pardon?
I say I never go up and walk through that cemetery.
It's okay, sis, it's okay.
But I can read every stone, and they have played a part in my life.
That's true.
And my children, growing up in Salt Lake and Murray, don't even hardly remember their next door neighbors.
That's true. That's very
But
true.
I can walk through it everyone, Uncle Abe and Orilla, Uncle Arth, why Max Hughes, just name it. Reber, Sammy Reber, Leonard Reber, all of them. I can tell you something that they did personally
Right. Every one of
that
us can do
affected
that.
my
Because it all
life.
goes back to what she said.
Yes.
Well, wasn't Leonard Reber helped get the grant to build this place?
He was the principal.
He was the
when they
principal.
did, yeah.
Now, I'll tell you a little side story about how helpful they are and how you remember. And my sisters don't know this, so you have to be careful. But I had been out and imbibed a little too much. And so I didn't want to go home. Because my mom had always told me, don't you dare go to bed unless you come in and kiss me goodnight. Well, I knew what she wanted. She wanted to be sure I wasn't smoking or drinking. And that was her way of being sure that I didn't do either. And this night I had been drinking and was going to go home, and I thought, oh, man. And I come around the corner, and Jack Hardy had a service station
Died.
next to the corner. As I come back, he saw me, and he said, hey, come in here. So I went in, and he said, you don't want your mother to see you like that. And he sat there like a whipped dog, if I remember. And he said, but I got something that will cure you, take care of you, and we'll make it okay. But don't do this anymore. I said, okay. So he went back, and pretty soon he brought out a glass, and it was about, about so high, but about half full of red liquid. And he said, now just hold your nose and drink it all. And don't stop, drink it all, and it'll take care of you. So I held my nose and drank it all. I thought I was going to die. It was red liniment. And I never drank after that. Jack cured me. Oh, that was the most horrible. No wonder you didn't want me to stop, just all at once. Wow. But you see, that goes back to what we're talking about. These people all had interest in you. You were somebody.
Yeah.
You were meaningful, and they watched you and helped you anyway.
No,
It was like we were talking, I was trying to remember yesterday and telling them, maybe you can remember. It's Walt Hughes or somebody that lived across from Elmer and Emily, made all the little coffins or
Oh, that's
coffins.
Uncle Walt.
Walt,
Yep.
Walt
he helped-
Hughes.
He helped with this project.
Yeah, you think every single person, he was the one.
See, he made all the coffins, he was a carpenter,
Yeah,
he was a cobbler,
yeah,
made all of the shoe repairs and all of that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
my
You
heaven.
know, I'll tell you something about Uncle Walt.
What was his name?
I
Walter.
always will remember.
That's right.
Uncle Walt Hughes?
Uncle
Walt
Walt
Hughes,
Hughes.
Walter
You know,
Warren,
He was Sunday school
He straight across,
superintendent
didn't
yeah.
when I was, well, he was Sunday school superintendent, I remember. And Uncle Walt rocked on his toes,
Yeah, he
remember?
did all
Yeah,
the
all the
time.
time.
And he'd stand there and look at his clock, at his watch.
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah.
minute that the time the church started, just that quick, it didn't make any
Yeah,
difference.
it was started.
Right now,
And do you know, when we would go to Sunday school, Mama would send us, and we'd go up to Sunday school, and it was that old gray building with the round entrance. You
The
know
old
who
block
stood
building.
there on that step? Uncle Walt Hughes. And we didn't have a daddy. And he was our home teacher. And when we'd go, I'd get that little pat on my head. First rate. You don't know what that meant. First rate kids.
Yeah,
We were first rate kids.
yeah.
that's true.
Oh, they were good people.
Everybody was tremendous. I can't really think, even going back over all of the people and all of the if there were any problems, I cannot recall anybody that didn't have an interest.
Well, the thing of it is,
Walter Hughes
and it
home.
made no difference whose home we were at, if we did something, they corrected
bay
us.
window, I
And we knew
remember
exactly
that.
when we got home, we was gonna get twice what they gave us.
Well, the interesting thing is,
Really?
as you get older, at least with me, and because I left here in '36.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Well, city.
I don't know the first names of everybody, but everybody was an uncle and an aunt. Didn't matter, I never called him by Uncle Jim, you know, Elmer Hughes or whatever, it's Uncle Elmer.
Well, that's it, and
or
people
Uncle
ask,
Walt,
Well, they
or
were-
whatever.
were you related? Yeah, you related to all these people? Heavens, no, no relation.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
But
beautiful.
that's what we
That was the
grew up
respect.
that way. That was the respect that we called them.
Don just brought this in, it
Oh,
says,
yeah.
this hammer of Walter Hughes helped build this building in
Yeah.
1941.
I swung that quite a few times.
Is that right?
Oh,
I'm the only one
Isn't
left that
that
helped build it.
I'll be darned.
look at that.
Well, it's a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful
Look at
memories.
that.
Rough times, but great memories.
Hammer of Walter Hughes.
And it's too bad that our kids, our
No.
great grandsons
Yeah.
can't experience what we
look at the marks.
experienced. And maybe they are, but in a different way. I don't know, I hope.
That's his
but,
initials there.
It's so
Jim
amazing.
Abbott over there, I remember him, there's carrying a building down over there somewhere.
Virgin Valley or
They
something.
could get cake with the gun out of the building.
Oh, they certainly don't have the community we had.
No,
This is where he measured.
not anymore.
So he measured, then he come down, boys, get out of my room. Time he got down there, he's probably angry. That old ice pipe we was talking about, they had a settling tank up above, you know,
Uh-huh.
to settle the water there. That water wheel. Well, I've been from that water, where that water comes down that big old pipe. I've crawled down that damn pipe, clear down over that water wheel, on top of it, inside of it, everywhere.
Go up over it and back down.
But, let me tell you, I might have been a scary crow, but we lived upon the hill right from the
Yeah.
ice plant.
Yeah.
And to the schoolhouse, it was a long ways to the schoolhouse. Well, every Tuesday night was MIA. We had to go to MIA. And I was all right going over, but coming back it was dark. And from the time I got just about to the Negleys, I started running, because I was scared to death of the Negley place. Of course, the ice plant and the Eatons and whatnot come after before the ice plant. But I never stopped running till I hit my front door, and when I hit it, he said I had locked out to kill himself. It's like somebody pushed me through, and I looked around to see who it was. But if ever somebody in the family was sick, I was the first one they sent to get somebody to come help. Because they said, she's the fastest runner. I said, I've had the most practice. I'd always go for Warren Hardy and Kenneth to come to give a blessing.
Yeah.
If I went up over around the ice plant, if it wasn't dark. If it was dark, I went down and around and took the long way.
The other thing, let me ask you, when I was a kid, it'd be just north of Mesquite here, not too far from where the school is, where the road came in there or something. I can't quite put it all together. But I used to gather what I call sugar flowers.
Oh, they were
For
all
my
over this
mom.
year, they were back.
Are they back?
Well,
I haven't
not
seen-
now, but they have been.
I haven't seen them, and I wondered whatever happened to them for years and years. I used to pick those and take them to Mom, and she used to
Little
say to
stem
me,
on about that long with a little,
yeah, she used to say to me, well, that's sweet of you, son, but you should have let
Were
them,
they
because they were.
white and pink both.
Because the time I'd get them to her in the heat, you know, they were
They
dead, but she'd say, that was nice of you, son, but you should have left them.
Oh, this east entrance up here coming off the freeway, that hill.
That's where
It
it
was
was.
just a blaze of,
Those are purple.
yeah. uh-huh.
I'll be
Just-
darned, all different colors, I guess, but we called them sugar flowers, I didn't know
When people ask me, you know, about different plants and flowers and things, and I said, give them a name, and they kind of look at me like I'm stupid. I said, well, that's when I grew up. That was the
Absolutely.
name that I had. I said, I don't know your scientific names of these plants.
They're just the short stem.
Now, I don't know, Shirley, were you around when this happened? And Millie, you may remember, maybe you're not, but I remember when we first moved into I call it the chicken coop.
Well, it was
Yeah.
part of
Yeah,
underground.
Yeah. No, I don't mean the old house, the
Oh,
old house.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Mom had told me to go down to the chicken coop, cause it was down toward the bank of the river, cause she thought there was a skunk down there. Well, I didn't know what a skunk was, but I went down there and I saw this beautiful animal with a white stripe on it. It looked great. I remember walking up towards it and that thing turned and sprayed me. My eyes burned.
Oh.
And I went running home crying, and Mom wouldn't let me in the house. And she made me take all my clothes off outside, and then come in and
She
tried
probably
to
burned
get.
them.
Yeah, the clothes were burned. They never did get better, but I never will forget that
Vance and
because
Rosa
I didn't know what a skunk was. I thought she was talking about
You thought it was a
cat or
Cat.
something.
Yeah.
But oh, you talk
You
about
knew
burn.
after that what the skunk looked like.
I mean, there since.
Nathan was the janitor over at the high
Right.
school.
Uh-huh.
Got a skunk into a settling tank over there. Of course, they had that big tank, you know, and they'd settle the water and then pump it up in there for the water in the school and
Yeah.
things. Got a skunk in there one morning, and there was about 5 or 6 of them. Emmett Barnum and me, and Theron Leavitt, about 5 or 6 of us. Nathan asked us to come and get that skunk out of there for him, you know. So we would got the skunk out all right, but SP Fish was a
Oh, I remember him, yeah.
Oh, I remember him. You
way
bet.
down upon the Virgin River, 5 miles from home. That's where we chased the skunks for, Nathan. That's where old Fish says, go home.
Oh, how great. Yeah. SP Fish. I'm glad you
We
said
had to walk home. He wouldn't let us in school.
And you walked home all the way.
Walked home.
Man, that was
That's why Vance
terrible.
and Fraser every little while they'd go down to get into the school buildings and
Yeah,
chase
chase-
those skunks.
Chase them
They ran
out.
back into school, that's why they done it, so they never let them in school.
Oh, man.
Oh dear. The memories.
Do you remember the old, when the Indians would come through these Lyceum numbers and put on these little skits, and they always had what I remember is one group that came through, and it was Ramona, and the gal was.
I
used to
can
be
remember it, yes.
Oh, and how beautiful she was to me, and I couldn't wait to get out and find this beautiful Ramona wherever. Oh, and the Pilots and the Indians,
Oh.
and Dad trading for blankets and food with these horse traders. They'd come down and talk to Dad and try to get the horses, and Dad would ask for Pilots, and they'd give him what they had, and he'd say, not enough. Want a blanket? No, they'd argue about that.
Did you have any Indians
It was
that
unbelievable.
hung around the town here all the time? That was
A lot of Indians,
Yeah.
of course, they used to winter here. They
They
would
did.
come in the winter, or in the fall, and spend the winter. Then they'd go back to the high mountains.
Where did they camp here?
All around.
All around.
All around.
Just around town. We had a number of them that camped right in our yard. up
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Were they beggars or did they trade?
Well, they trade.
Trade.
We had an old lady, they called her Susie. You probably
I remember
her.
Susie, yeah.
I remember Susie.
Yeah.
She come and
She came for years and years.
Yeah.
And she'd come and Mom would say, now, when she comes to the house, make sure you don't have any shoes on.
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
won't let him till she wants them shoes you got on, and she'll
Yeah.
get them. But she'd always ask my dad for hay. And
I've
Dad'd say,
seen her lay a rope down and pile hay on
Big as
that
a wagon at home.
5 or 6 men couldn't carry.
Yeah.
And she'd put that up over her shoulder and away she'd go.
The thing that I remember most about Indians and what Dad told me was that they're truthful, they're honest, and they won't do you any harm. But just always remember, they'll give you something for something, but don't ever let them walk away empty-handed.
Yeah.
Just be sure they get something. I don't care what it is, but to be sure
Where
that
this
they.
building is down here, right across where the church used to be,
Uh-huh,
and, Uncle Leavitt,
right on the other side.
yeah. But up above there wasn't nothing.
Yeah, just sand knolls and mesquite brush.
And of course she was, the Indian was
Uh-huh,
camping
yeah.
up there. We
Well,
called
do
it Old
you
Curry.
remember?
And her husband was blind.
Yeah, old Sam, he was blind.
Uncle List heard somebody hollering, help, help. And it went on for so long, he decided he better walk up through there and see what was up, see what that noise was. We got up through there and she dug a big hole, buried it right up to his neck. Uncle List got after her for doing it and she says, he's no good, blind, no good.
Can't keep up, blind. Well, when
Dug him out.
when they were,
Wasn't there an Aunt Jeanette that came for years?
what?
Indian lady, Aunt Jeanette, or was that Aunt?
Well, Aunt Jeanette was,
that came-
one of, what's the name, Levitt's
Yeah,
wives.
she's-
Well, they came, I remember to Uncle Ray's or something, selling bonnets, and they'd come every
Yeah.
spring.
Yeah.
She would come, this Indian lady with her
Well,
bonnets.
Liz Levitt and
I remember
Carl
that.
were her sons, and they were dark, you know,
Yeah.
dark skinned.
Uh-huh.
And when we had the 24th and the 4th of July celebrations like that, they'd always dress up as Indians.
Oh, I remember.
Had them
Oh.
fights and all that kind of stuff, you know, the Indians chasing the
Yes.
white men and,
Right.
I remember
And
old
coming down over the hill
This
with
is on
But
the
I
24th
remember
of July.
spring, you know, these
Everybody, the
hats
men
with
made their
flowers.
covered wagons.
She'd have a
Uh-huh.
big thing of,
We started down at the end of town,
Bonnets.
and come up, we got about where the schoolhouses used to be. The Indians attacked us. I thought I was scared to death. I knew they were gonna kill me. And I remember one of the Indians was Millie Leavitt.
yeah, all of those Levitt boys that had dark skin.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
The last thing of the Indians and the white men are fighting, I remember, the Indians stole Cleve Barnum. You know Cleve.
Yeah.
They stole Cleve Barnum, and the old Indian had him on the back of his horse, you know, no saddle. And
I had forgotten that, but now I have a memory.
You remember
that? Yeah.
that's the last time that they had one of those
That's the last
deals.
time.
I had forgotten that.
But it was good. I know how scared I was, but how
The
tickled I was. 'Cause
Indians
the
took,
kids that they took, they got back.
yeah, the Indians took Cleve back up into the Indian camp, and then the white men went up and stole him back.
Isn't that amazing? It's just, your memories are just flooded.
I can lay there in bed at night and I'll wake up and get to thinking something, and it'll just it's on a tape. It
Yeah.
just
Just
Yeah.
keeps going around.
completely goes around.
isn't it wonderful
It's time to
memories,
get up,
though?
then
What
you
would
get
we
sleepy.
do
Yeah,
without
it's a
them?
good thing we have it.
What would we do without them? I remember Christmas especially. And I don't know who Santa Claus was, but he sure was always good. Ho, 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 you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I remember going out there and they had a Christmas tree in the middle of the room. And the children would dance around it or march around it, waiting for Santa Claus. And we never knew it was a surprise. Those doors would, and there Santa Claus was in our little bags. And it was usually always peanuts and little hardtack, but I remember they were chocolate drops, maybe one or two in each little bag. I remember that was the most exciting.
Well, the old candy pools was really something
Yeah.
else, man, when they big candy it.
Goodness, when we had birthday parties or something, and go in and either honey or molasses candy, we'd
Yeah.
pull it and
Oh,
get it all,
yeah.
almost make it pure white, you
That's
know.
right,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, those big trippers. That's what we did at our parties usually. I remember over at Uncle Liz, the first time I tasted fudge. was a little party of us young kids over
Yeah.
there, and it wasn't taffy, it was
Yeah,
fudge that we cut in.
Yeah.
I think it was, I don't believe it was chocolate, I think it was the
We-
Panucci fudge.
We know it was such a rainy day because Mama made taffy.
Taffy
And
was her
Mama could
favorite.
make
Yeah.
taffy. I don't know anybody else who could ever make taffy like Mama.
Yeah, she would
And
really
on a
work that
rainy
over.
day, we knew we were gonna get
I
taffy.
remember I made taffy, and the kids all raved about it, and then Gloria went to a birthday party up to Reed's, and Rita made taffy, it went back to sugar. When Gloria come home, she said, "This is a new kind of candy." Rita just tried it, and she says it's January frost.
that sounds like reading.
I said, "Yeah, but it's supposed to be taffy, but it isn't." Made it go back to sugar.
Shortly before Reen died, of course, I used to call widows around, town and ask them how they were doing, how they were getting along and everything. And I was sitting there in the room one day and the phone rang and I picked it up and she said, "Francis, this is Reen." I said, "Reen, how you doing? How's everything?" "I was sitting here so damn mad." And she says, "I knew you'd talk to me. I want to talk." And I think we talked for about 15 or 20 minutes. She was just a short time before she passed away.
I'll be done.
Well, I was telling Bud and Millie yesterday, when we went to the cemetery, I said, Maureen was having her first baby, and I was having my second.
Uh-huh.
And she come up to, we both had Dr. McGregor. And,
Was it McGregor or Dr.
oh, Dr. Reichman.
Reisman?
It wasn't McGregor, it was
Yeah.
McGregor Hospital.
Yes.
Dr. Reichman. And we were living in those two rooms, and Aunt Emma and Uncle Dave right across the
Yeah.
street. And she used to come over and it was hot, July, no air conditioning, no. And we'd sit there and talk about who's going first, we both expect, well, I went first. And I had my Carol on the 23rd, and she had Irma Lead on the 24th.
Fourth.
And I still remember we were in the same room together. But I remember Dr. Reichman come, and that is a sweet memory. It was her first baby, and she was older, and I guess she had not an easy time.
I think she had a pretty rough time.
And anyway, I remember him coming in to check us that morning, and he knew we were cousins. And anyway, I remember he said to her, "What are we going to name this baby?" Do you remember what he wanted you to name her?
Oh,
He says, "I've got the perfect name for
my
this
heavens.
little girl." And it was Briggy Anna,
Briggy Anna.
because she was on the 24th of July.
Brigham Young's wife.
He says, "Briggy Anna," I'll never forget that.
I'd almost forgotten it.
Yes, sir. And he says, "This little girl, I've got the perfect name." And I was in the
But you didn't name her that, huh?
Briggy Anna.
Freaky Anna. Oh my heavens.
Before Gloria was born, Rena and I was both pregnant,
Uh-huh.
and I was walking up back of where we lived up there, and Evan and Benjamin was getting the bandwagon ready, and I was usually on the bandwagon every time the bandwagon went, but he said, "Ethel, are you gonna be on this bandwagon in the morning?" I said, "Evan, I'm gonna be on the bandwagon, but it ain't gonna be this one." So I went to the hospital. And when the bandwagon got up to Reed's, and I wasn't on the bandwagon, and she says, "Where's Ethel?" She's up in the hospital, she had her baby. "Oh, wow, hell," she started to bawl him back, and out she went. Wasn't very happy for her. But I said, "Well, they would have, I don't know if they would, because she had the mumps." I said, "It's just a good thing she didn't go."
Well, we were trying to remember the other day, and maybe you can help us on this. When Uncle Will had the hotel up there and everything, there was a doctor came to Mesquite, in a little Surrey, one horse Surrey, and they called
Doc
up.
Gilbert.
Oh,
That's
that you
it.
straightened this up, because what happened is they took all the tonsils out, we were laying on the living
Yeah.
room table in Uncle Will's hotel, and took all our tonsils out, and Barbara Sherritt, who is the Horsley.
Yes, yeah, she's still
She-
up in Washington.
Oh yeah, I talked to her the other day, she's 99, soon to be
99.
100, still
Wow.
writing her memoirs. And she said that it was Dr. Middleton who did my foot. And I said to Shirley and Millie, that's hard for me to believe. So you said it straight, Gilbert. I'll say
Gilbert,
that.
yeah,
I've been looking
We
for that
know
for
now,
years.
cause I just
Dr.
couldn't
Gilbert.
believe.
That. See, that's good. Now I know. I couldn't put that name down.
And you're
I got
That's great.
scarlet fever. Of course, we lived down on the hill, and nobody close around us. But I got sick. But shortly after I got sick, then Elsie and Eleanor and Amy all got sick. And we were so damn sick that they thought we was gonna all die. Well, they brought this Dr. Gilbert in. Mama went through the big old doctor book she had. Dr. Gilbert come and sat on the bed, and they finally decided it was scarlet fever. And you know, it didn't take many minutes for them to have a quarantine sign up on that gate. And
I had-
then other people in town, then they started getting sick. And some they call scarlet fever, and they call it scarlatina. But I said, if it was scarlet fever, they were too sick to worry about whether they was gonna live or. And we were quarantined for so long. Every bit of skin had to come off your body before you could walk. And when it comes to the bottom of your feet, just forever.
Oh.
Getting that off of there.
Oh my heavens.
I had it, and they quarantined us, and I wasn't sick. We were out for better than 5 weeks out of school. All of us was out of school.
Really?
I said I never had a better time in my life, trapping muskrats up the river, going quail hunting, and
When they tore that sign down, all four of us were scared to death to walk down. We'd been locked up for so long that it scared us to death to even go to the store.
no.
Well, it's been an interesting life. I've been trying to write my memoirs and stuff, because I've kept journals all my life, little things here and there of everything that happened. And I was thinking the other day, reading the other day about when I was in the school, in the first, second grade, I guess. And of course, I was club-footed, as you know, I've been operated on.
yeah.
So when they had recess, I was never asked to play on a
Yeah.
team. I mean, it always ended up, everybody was chosen, I was left over, and then whatever team was short a person, that was where I went. And it used to just upset me to no end, but I couldn't do anything about it. And I remember Aunt Emma, who was my teacher, watched me one day, and she come out. I hadn't been chosen, they were choosing, but I guess she sensed what was wrong. She come out and said, put her arm around me and said, I need to talk to you. So we went in the school, and it seemed like there were 2 rooms. There might have been 3, but to me at that time, it seemed like there was just 2 for all of our classes.
Well, there was 4.
Was there 4?
There were 4.
Well, see, I'm
Yeah.
kinda screwed up on that.
The first and second, and the third and fourth was in one room, and then the fifth and sixth was in.
Okay.
Thanks.
So we
You are
went,
right.
I
she
remember
went in,
that.
we went in the room, and she put her arm around me and she said, don't let that upset you. And I said, what? And she says that they never choose you. You're okay. And then before I could answer, she said, do you see all those books? There was all kinds of books there. She said, why don't you just read? And instead of playing, don't worry about them. Just read and read and read and learn about the world around you. And she started me on my reading track. And that's when she moved me from the 3rd to the 4th grade, because I had read every book that they had in the library. And I have contributed to her. That's the reason that I got where I am, is because she sensed some problems and took care of it and said, hey. And you know, then I got involved, as you know, in the Special Olympics. for years and years, and in fact made the Hall of Fame for them. But that's what my big story of writing to them when I left was, why did it take the teachers so long
Yeah.
to not ask me to be the captain of the baseball team, like they do now?
Yeah.
You know, nobody pays any attention to it anymore. You know, you have a recess, who cares? Yeah, everybody. But why was it then that everybody jumped on the bandwagon that you were different? And I thought so much like Martin Levitt, that had this speech problem.
Van Walker.
We all made fun of him like they made fun of me.
Yeah.
Why did we do that? He was, and that's the one thing about the new generation that I'm really proud
Yeah, you
of, that the
bet.
kids are
Yeah.
starting to realize that it's people and not
Different.
what's inside instead of what you see. But I've always thanked Aunt
He
Emma for
wants
that,
to.
she was terrific.
We have a visitor to the museum from the Barnum family, would like to say hello.
Oh, great,
Hi.
come in. I'll
I was
get up.
excited when I heard that all of you were in here. My maiden name was Barnum, and
Barnum.
found out that I had Barnum relatives here. So,
Oh.
Well, come and
back
sit down.
on a great uncle's side. Oh, I don't need to sit
No,
down.
no, sit down for a while, I gotta stand.
I'm gonna scoot over. We
Oh,
got
that's
room.
fine. No, so tell me.
family?
Well, it was a great uncle that had, his son came here and settled in Bunkerville. And it was I don't know how you say his name, Ashel James?
Aesel Barnum.
That's where.
We talked
my
about
husband-
Aesel yesterday.
Yes,
There
and
we
your
go.
little glasses.
That's
Yeah,
right here.
oh yeah.
That's him right
That's
there.
him.
That's his wife.
Oh, okay.
Right there, behind you.
Right up behind you there, see?
Oh.
Yeah, that's Aesel.
That's
Yeah,
it.
and they had
I
more than one
remember.
wife.
Little glasses around here.
Down on the end of his nose.
Yeah,
That's
I
your grandfather.
in all her years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I come from Henry James Barnum, and then the brother, the two brothers, you come from one line and I come from the other brother. From Peoria is where they started, in Peoria, Utah.
Oh, I know Peoria.
Yeah, Peoria as they
Been there
said
many
it.
times.
Yeah, that was, so when my husband's working on a job here, and when I saw the Barnums in the phone book, I thought, wow. You know, because I'd kind of read a little bit of history, and my great-grandmother died in Panaca, Nevada, and was buried in Bougainville, and my brother and I went looking for where she was buried, because Bougainville doesn't exist anymore. And it was part of the product of the mining and things that wasn't there any longer. We found the graveyard, but not,
Any hits?
No
there
marker
were no
for her.
headstones, but there had been, my cousin and aunt had put a headstone, but who knows if it's her grave or not. So I was trying to find out why she was in Panaca when she grew up and was married and her family was in Peoria, in the Wanship area. So then that led me to him and this area here, and was excited when I could come and kind of investigate and see where they lived. I went to the county building to look at land records and birth records and things, trying to figure out who she came down here. And it led me here, but this was part of Lincoln County.
It
They
was.
didn't have records back far enough.
Well, they all burned.
Is that what happened? All of them
The
burned
courthouse
before?
burned and all the records were
You have that picture?
burned.
Oh, yeah, because I saw where all the births of his children were, and the
I've
midwife
ever
was
seen
like
that
his
picture.
mother-in-law,
Uh-huh.
the Leavitt,
I think I've seen
it
the
just-
young one like
I
that
went and
of her
walked
either.
through the Bunkerville Cemetery.
Oh.
And it just was exciting for me to come, and I just loved the genealogy and finding little pieces of the puzzle, you know, that went together, yeah. So I'm related to you, what is your name?
Ethel Leavitt.
Oh, so you're 11, so you married 11. Okay, I'm Ann Palmer, I was Ann Barnum, and
I was a Leavitt, and I married a Leavitt. Second cousins.
lots of Levitts, I'll tell you. That's what I found out, lots of Levitts here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Levitt's, Barnums, Abbotts, Hugheses.
Frayners.
You keep it going, and they all come in together,
Rivers.
they're all related.
Yeah, where you all came and settled here. Who else was there to to date and to marry, huh? Except cousins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then Uncle Ace was your
He would be
Your
cousin. No, he would be a cousin.
cousin.
Yeah, he would be, I don't know how many times removed.
And
Yeah.
is that Uncle Ace Barnum?
This
Ace
is Uncle
Yeah,
Ace
Ace
when he
Barnum.
was young. Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a real good memory of Uncle Ace.
Oh,
Wow.
You know, Aunt Em and Uncle Dave lived here somewhere right
Yeah,
close.
just right
Right
Uh-huh.
next
door.
door.
And then we'd go up through their lot, up to Uncle Ace's,
Ace's.
and we used their separator. He let us come up there and separate and pack, and then we'd come and pack the cream home.
cream home. You
And
just bring the cream, you wouldn't take the milk
I
home?
guess we would, I don't know what Mama did with it, but we'd
The
go
cream
up.
was the thing you wanted, huh?
But he said
We
we
used
could come
the
up
milk,
and,
the separated milk
we
to
could
feed
come up and use her.
the
Animal.
animals
Then we
and
shipped the
things,
cream, you know, then we
Yeah.
shipped the cream.
Did the
I
milk
guess
and
with
the cow
Uncle
pigs.
Dave to take the eggs and the cream down to Vegas. But I remember walking with Mommy up there and using the separator, and they let us do that and back.
Yeah, yeah.
and they were real important.
Everybody helped each other.
Oh, that's the way it should be.
Yes, right.
That's the way it
We
should be.
had to, that's right.
Whenever you're ready.
And their daughter
Whenever you're ready.
babysat us.
Uncle Ace's.
Yes, what was her name?
Roca. Was it Roca?
Roca and,
There was a little short one.
It's the other one.
yeah,
Um,
Gertha was one of the older ones.
Yes, it's
Roca was the youngest.
Yeah.
Lena,
Yeah,
Lena.
that's her name. Thank you.
Well, it was,
But I remember.
and Ethel that mentioned it.
Right, when we were quite young, and Mama would go to the temple 2 or 3 times where she watched over us.
Yes, she had to get away from us mean little kids. She'd go up to St. George, to the temple for a few days.
But Lena was,
Yeah, one of them. I
right.
remember
Just jump in.
little black hair.
Jump in whenever
Jump
you
in.
want.
Okay. What we'd like to do as we conclude our filming is Pete wants to just have each of you just kind of on your own, just tell something, a little 1-2-liner about Mesquite or Bunkerville, so we can wrap up the tape, make a good conclusion of it.
Okay, let me let
Okay.
you sit back here.
Is that
and-
a picture of Uncle Ray back there?
And
Ray
his
Abbott?
family,
And his
huh?
family?
Yeah, uh-huh.
It is.
So, okay, you want, just
I
kind
noticed.
of make a
And
make a
George.
concluding statement there, so we can wrap
A
up.
good statement.
Yeah, just kind of like, keep it short.
In reminiscing about memories of Mesquite, I guess the greatest thing I can say about my childhood is we were family. And everybody loved everybody, and because of that, we developed a great love for family and for friends and for people and for life itself. I'm grateful for all of them that helped me along the way.
I can remember, especially during school days and things, when we were in school, there were 2 or 3 ranches up above town, 2 or 3 miles up the river. And students from those ranches would come down, and if there's special events, dances or something that they had to stay over, my mother, even though there were 13 of us, there's room for 1 or 2 more. Some of those girls, the Lynch girls and the Johnsons, spent about as much time sleeping on our floor as some of the others. That's one of the memories that I remember, and how we enjoyed just visiting with them.
Well, I'm a Bunkerville girl and I always will be Bunkerville. And I told the partition guy the other day, I ought to have him sign the paper for me. But I told him, I said, when you get my body here, I'm leaving you responsible that it's the way it should be. My kids, my daughters will make sure that I'm dressed right, but I want you to see that in my pocket I've got a slice of bread. And if they haven't put it there, you're to do it. I'm dropping breadcrumbs. And I said, 'cause when I get up there, if they don't want me up there, I am not going to hell. I've shoveled all my life, I'm going right straight back to Bunkerville.
Oh, that's Shirley. Oh, for cute. There's so many memories, but I find as I get older that it's real easy to go to sleep at night if I just think about the old town and remember each house, where they were, and each family, go down the road and straight on over and cross the bridge and over to Bunkerville. And there's the high school. My whole world. It was my whole world.
When I think of Mesquite, I think of home. And it still is home. And always will be.
You don't want anything from me. So Bunkerville has been a good place for me to grow up, Virgin Valley. And it, even though it was a little later than some of these others, still the people knew us and cared about us and knew if we were in trouble and let our parents know if we were in trouble so that none of us could go astray. And I was amazed a few years ago to find out so many of the kids that I went to school with are related to us. Almost every kid was in our class, I think, was related to us. So it was good.
That's a nice memory.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been quite a meeting for all of you, and I appreciate you taking the time to come to meet with us as a family, because it's like I was telling my sisters yesterday. I'm 88 and younger than Frances, of course, and Millie's getting up there in the 90s, and Shirley's just a few years younger than me. This may be the last time that we'll get together, and to do it here is wonderful, because that'll be a memory we'll always remember.
Well, you gotta realize, he helped build the
How old
place.
is-
I know.
How old is she?
Yeah.